Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPNP News. It's March 6th, 2026, 3/6/26. And already we're about a third of the year, or a third of the way through the year, right? Some people are trying to tell you that World War III has started. Really? I don't think so. A world war entails the entire world being at war with each other, right? Which only happened twice, and really it's hard to say if those were really world wars per se. They were a bunch of countries fighting each other. All who were related, right, in the past. If you look at World War One, what was that? It was a bunch of cousins, those people, those rich families, right, fighting each other. Different royal families that don't like each other, right? And we're fighting each other and cause a lot of damage. That's sort of where we are in the state of this world that we're in now, where we have these powerful families in control. I saw some very interesting topic that I want to start with, which was yesterday or today. The Justice Department is releasing missing FBI interviews and Epstein files with women who made claims against Trump and Epstein. This file just came out. It's hot off the presses, baby. And we're going to go through the 10-page document right now that was just released, with the first part of it being redacted. It looks like the title of this document is 31 Edward NY-3027571, serial 252. It's an unclassified document. It's FD 302 REV 5-8-10. This is allegations from a protected source whose name has been redacted. The date of this entry, the date of this report was August the 22nd, 2019. Why does that date have some significance? 8/22, August 22nd, 2019. So Trump's still president when this, and also Trump was still president, I believe, when the other allegation was made against him by another woman of infanticide, of him witnessing an infanticide. That allegation was made in 2020. So these allegations are coming out against Trump by whistleblowers and women who wish to remain anonymous while he's in the presidency, right? And nothing's ever investigated about it. Nothing's ever looked into. It's never even came out into the public knowledge and purview that while he was in office that this was happening, right? So there's going to be a lot of redactions. I'm going to read the 10-page document to begin. So she advised that the redacted high school yearbooks for redacted, she was a freshman, and redacted, she was a sophomore, would have photographs of her approximately 15 and 16 years old, closer to the time frame of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of redacted. Her last name at the time the yearbooks were published was redacted. She recalled that redacted high school mascot was possibly redacted, and one of their school colors may have been redacted. Also provided the interviewing agents with two photographs undated that included her at approximately 13 to 16 years old. The first photograph included two females laying on a bed. Redacted identified herself as the female on the right, not smiling. Redacted believed this photograph may have been taken prior to her meeting Epstein. The second photograph shows 5 individuals sitting down as a group with an additional individual sitting approximately 2 feet away. All individuals appear to be female. Redacted is the second from the right, appearing to sit somewhat behind the other girls. She has white sunglasses on her head. Redacted advised she recalled this photograph was most likely taken after she met and was abused by Epstein. She noticed the solo cups in the photograph and inferred they contained alcohol. Redacted indicated the party atmosphere would have occurred after she met Epstein. Here's an investigation on 8/7/2019, 15 days before the initial statement. File 31E, New York 3027571. Drafted on August 9, 2019. Here's a continuation of FD 302, interview number 2, which was done previous to this first statement, I believe. At the start of the interview, Redacted advised she now felt comfortable enough to provide details regarding sexual and physical abuse. Excuse me, guys. She suffered at the hands of not only Jeffrey Epstein, but also certain individuals associated with him. So it's not just Epstein. She advised that she met Epstein, referred to as Jeff by Redacted, through fraud and misrepresentation. This is where it starts to get more interesting, because it appears that they were blackmailing this girl's mother. Right? She advised that she met Epstein, referred to as Jeff by Redacted of her mother, by Redacted through fraud and misrepresentation, and that he and others took advantage of her mother. Redacted stated that Epstein blackmailed her mother through explicit photographs of Redacted, which resulted in her mother embezzling from a real estate company to pay him. So he's got nude photos of this woman's underage child, and he's blackmailing the mother, saying he's going to do something with him. I'm not sure what, if she doesn't give him money. That's a new angle to this whole thing. We've never heard that allegation been made before. Redacted stated that Epstein blackmailed her mother through explicit photographs of Redacted, which resulted in her mother embezzling from her real estate company to pay him. Redacted stated that her mother, quote, tried to buy back the photos and secrets, quote unquote, over the years. A man named Jim Atkins, phonetic, a friend and associate of Epstein, background of relationship is unknown, participated with Epstein in blackmailing Redacted's mother. Atkins also sexually assaulted Redacted on more than one occasion. Redacted described Atkins as a white male with gray hair, quote unquote, big ears and hairy body. Atkins was possibly in his 50s in the early 80s and lived in Ohio. So this guy's probably dead by now, right? That's 40 years ago. He might be 90-something years old if he's alive. Atkins was possibly in his 50s in the early 80s, lived in Ohio. So we go back to Ohio, back to Les Wexner, back to what's going on with that. Atkins was somehow associated with an Ohio university, unidentified. He may have been the dean or the money guy at the school at the time. So it should be easy to... I'm going to have to dig into this guy some more. He's possibly an Ohio State person. He's connected to some school. Atkins either owned or rented a residence on Redacted Islands. What island could that be? Why is this island redacted? It couldn't be Epstein Island, right? Probably not. But could it have been maybe like Dog Islands? Or the islands near? No, I don't think so. What island? Where he stayed when he came to the island. Redacted stated that the home she and her mother lived in on the island would not have been nice enough for Atkins to stay in. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now you're saying you and your mother were on the same island? So it could be Epstein Island. He has those bungalows, right? Remember, we saw those little bungalows. Could that be what he's doing with those? He's got young women and their mothers there, and he's somehow blackmailing the mothers into allowing their daughters to be, I don't know, sexually abused more? Used in this program? This is hard to imagine, right? Redacted stated that the home she and her mother lived in on the island would not have been nice enough for Atkins to stay in. Redacted met Atkins not long after Epstein began sexually assaulting her. She estimated she met him when she was approximately 14 or 15 years old and recalled meeting him in her mother's office. However, she did not know why he was in her mother's office initially. So this is a real estate person that Epstein may be using and then decides to do something to her daughter, take advantage of the daughter, and use her that way. I don't know. She did not know why he was in her mother's office initially. Could not recall how her mother and Atkins were originally introduced. Atkins came off as a, quote, rich prick who would throw his weight around and talk about money. He would expect people to respond immediately to him. Atkins was a quote-unquote pervert who looked at Redacted like she was a piece of meat, quote-unquote. He developed a romantic relationship with Redacted's mother, who he claims he loved, but Redacted mother appeared annoyed with him at times. They dated for approximately a year, and Atkins would fly on and off to the island to see her. Redacted looked back on the relationship and thought her mother and Atkins may have been secretly dating. If he was married in Ohio, he was rude to Redacted and her brothers. He had a short temper and he was a drinker. Redacted's brother, blank, Redacted would recognize Atkins. Redacted recalled seeing Epstein and Atkins together at least once at Epstein's house. She recalled it was most likely at the second house she knew him to live in while he resided on blank island. So it's a long name island. It's not a short name. It's not Dog Island. It would be a shorter. Could it be that they're talking about Epstein's Island, right? Little St. James. And that these women were also living on Little St. James and were either being held there against their will or blackmailed and held there. We're not sure, but it appears that Epstein's friend is dating the mother at one point, and then the daughter is then abused. Here's a huge part of this next page is redacted, completely blacked out. Page 3 of 10 has a massive redaction on it. So we'll just go down and skip that. Atkins and his accountant African-American male named Cecil, last name unknown, assisted Redacted's mother in fixing her real estate books so that she could embezzle funds and pay Epstein. At some point, Atkins and Redacted's mother had a falling out, and Atkins, Epstein, and possibly Cecil turned Redacted's mothers into the real estate commission by providing her accurate real estate book records. Oh, so then they turned on the mother and they screwed her over, right? They were probably using this to money launder. That's what they were doing, I'm assuming. Real estate is a way that people launder money too, right? Like I said, I could sell you something for whatever I sell it to you for. I don't have to have a fucking reason, right? I could sell you my $1 million house for $5 if I feel like doing it, if I'm so inclined, right? Most people wouldn't, but let's say I'm part of this group of people that's trying to launder large amounts of money. That would be a way you could do it too, right? I buy a large piece of real estate, I then sell it to you for almost nothing. You then resell that parcel for the proper amount of money, and then we've now cleaned millions and millions of dollars that you split with me in some way, right? Whatever it is, who knows? It could be a lot of different ways you could do it. Obviously, you could do it with real estate, you could do it with casinos, you could do it with a bunch of small businesses, you could do it with laundromats and places where a lot of money comes through, well, that used to come through. Now everything's sort of more done with cards, right? There's less and less all cash businesses out there. So they then turned the mother into the real estate commission by providing her accurate real estate books to them. Redacted's mother was sent to prison for a period of time. So now this poor girl is, who knows, right? She's exposed. They now have access to the daughter. She has no one to protect her. Where's the father? Redacted's mother was sent to prison for a period of time for embezzlement, and she was not able to pay the restitution ordered. Redacted was not aware of the blackmailing when it began to occur. Her mother informed her late into the process that they were in trouble, that she had been seen photographs of Redacted and that she was paying people money. Redacted recalled calling Atkins at the school where he was employed to ask whether he could help Redacted and her mother. Prior to Redacted meeting Epstein, her mother had been sober. Redacted advised that the threat must have been very real because her mother was a very strong woman and it affected her substantially. After Epstein blackmailed her, Redacted's mother began to drink alcohol again. Redacted continued to the chronological discussion of incidents involving Epstein that that she began to detail during the previous interview with respect to what she believed to be the fourth incident. The two men involved, in addition to Epstein, described by Redacted to be fat and disgusting, also, quote, seemed to have money. Redacted was asked more than once about the contact between herself and the men and what transpired during that fourth interaction. Redacted did not recall the men's names. At the time of the interview, Redacted was not comfortable going into specifics regarding the sexual abuse the men subjected her to. We're now on page 4 of 10. Interview number 2. After approximately the fourth interaction with Epstein that summer, a period of time elapsed within the same summer, and Epstein began staying at a different residence. Location details unknown. On one occasion, Redacted and her friends were at a pool one night, possibly at the Marriott Hotel. Redacted, she recalled, and this is all redacted, Redacted being present. So somebody was there that's name is being redacted. Epstein showed up alone at the pool. Redacted believed that when he showed up, one of her friends, must have seen him. Redacted left with Epstein, and he got her to leave without using violence. They went back to his house. She reiterated it was a different residence than his previous home. When they arrived, it was the, quote, same kind of bullshit. Epstein asked Redacted who her friends were, if she told her friends, and if her friends wanted to come party, quote unquote. Redacted responded no, she did not tell her friends, and no, they did not want to come party. Redacted stated that Epstein sent her on what she referred to as missions to find young girls who wanted a party. So he's using her as a recruiter too, like he's using people like Ghislaine and other young girls. This is after, of course, he's gotten her mother arrested and thrown in jail, right? On approximately the fifth interaction, Redacted recalled having with Epstein, other people were present. Redacted vaguely remembered other girls around and older men, but she did not recognize anyone. I'm just going to keep checking my recording because the last time I had that error. I apologize, guys. I know it was difficult to listen to the last show, but I had to do it that way, so hopefully we won't have any more problems. On approximately the fifth interaction, Redacted recalled having with Epstein, other people were present. She vaguely remembered other girls around and older men, but she did not recognize anyone. Two of the men were fat and disgusting, quote unquote, and had Santa stomachs, quote unquote. However, one man was heavier than the other. With respect to recognizing other individuals from the area, she stated that Redacted Island was small. She knew most girls her age, and the fact she did not recognize any of the girls partying with Epstein and his friends made her wonder where they came from. So what island is this? It's not Epstein Island probably that she's on. She's at a Marriott. She's somewhere down in Florida that's got an island name. Or she's on an actual island. We'll have to get back to that, right? There were girls around, there were older men. We're not sure where this fifth interaction is. It was at a pool, though, it seemed like. She left the pool and then went back to Epstein's house, right? I'm thinking this is somewhere in Florida, and then she's at the house that was torn down, the one that's near Mar-a-Lago, possibly, right? There was a beach near the hotels known by locals and some vacationers to be a place to, quote-unquote, party. When asked about the men present during the fifth interaction, Redacted advised one of the men, unidentified, physically and verbally abused her. She remembered he pulled her hair and beat the shit out of me, quote-unquote. She thought it was strange that he stomped on her big toe. He hit her with a belt or a similar object. She had, quote, no idea what that was about, quote unquote. His abusive actions toward her were not sexual, except he masturbated at certain points while abusing her. She could not recall having bruises after the man beat her. Redacted stated it was a very long evening that went into morning, quote unquote. Redacted's mother was not concerned that she did not go home that night because it was normal for her to stay at a friend's. So the mother's out of jail by this point, I'm assuming? She had said the mother went to jail for embezzlement charge. So I'm assuming now the mother's back out at this point. Her mother was not concerned that she did not go home that night because it was normal for her to stay at a friend's home overnight sometimes. At that point, her mother was not aware of Redacted's ongoing abuse by Epstein and his associates. With respect to bruising incurred from any of the abusive interactions with Epstein, Redacted stated, "I must have had bruises, but I don't remember my friend saying anything," quote unquote. She did not go to the hospital and she did not incur any broken limbs. Redacted thought she may have had a few knots on her head after interactions with Epstein. Redacted knows Epstein took photographs of her during sexual activity because she found images of herself in a drawer during her third interaction with him, previously documented, and she vaguely recalled Epstein taking the pictures. Epstein took Polaroid pictures of her. Some were of just her breasts, others depicted only her face, and some showed her whole body. Redacted remembered she was wearing one of Epstein's shirts in at least one photograph he took. She described the shirt as very crispy, quote unquote, and possibly blue or white. Redacted advised the tripod came to mind as well and was possibly involved at some point. Redacted did not recall any other men taking photographs of her. Redacted pointed out that just because she could not remember whether they took photographs did not mean they did not. She estimated she had more than 6 and less than 20 sexual interactions with Epstein over time. Epstein told Redacted on at least one occasion that dark was his time. No further information. Dark was his time. So he's a night guy. He likes to be up at night, I'm assuming. He's a night owl. Or is there another meaning to that? Redacted was Epstein's main contact, quote unquote, on the island. When they were with others, Epstein appeared to be the leader, and others deferred to him. Redacted generally only talked to Epstein. They abused me, but I didn't talk to them. Redacted wanted to be in a good place with Epstein. Better to get him people to party with than be partied on, quote unquote, she writes. She says, at this point, Redacted attorney Redacted advised, "You felt shame," quote unquote. Redacted responded, "Yeah," quote unquote. Redacted advised that during several of her interactions with Epstein she was drugged, quote unquote, which was not fine, but better than being sober, quote unquote. With respect to the sexual abuse she endured by him and his associates, she remembered that once she began introducing Epstein to girls she met on the beach, he and Redacted seemed to come to an understanding. The situation, while still horrible, did not seem as horrible. In Epstein's subsequent interactions with her, she felt like he looked at her as a good girl, quote unquote. He acted as though he thought, quote, "You're my good girl now," quote unquote. Redacted began thinking she had to eat or be eaten, quote unquote. So this poor girl is in a bad situation with Epstein. She's trapped, it appears. And the mother is not aware that she's being used in this way. Redacted could not recall ever seeing another underage girl being abused during the time she knew Epstein. She vaguely remembered hearing screaming and crying, but she was segregated and did not hang out with anyone. She reiterated that she did not talk to the girls or the men who associated with Epstein. Redacted did not know whether there were group setting sex situations involving the girls. She was not asked or forced to participate in sex with more than one individual. On more than one occasion while in Epstein's company, she observed a woman around Epstein's age at the time, 30s, present, who did not appear to be black or Caucasian, but had darker skin and long, dark, wavy hair. The woman did not appear to have a lot of money, nor did she appear to be in a relationship or married to any of Epstein's associates. The woman may have been with Epstein in some way. The woman never spoke to Redacted and gave off a cold feeling. She was not aware of whether the woman abused any girls. However, she did not abuse Redacted. Redacted was probably given drugs on almost every interaction she had with Epstein. She was always given alcohol and marijuana, and usually cocaine. Epstein's drink of choice was gin and tonic. He enjoyed listening to classical music, and he blared Neil Diamond. Not long ago, Redacted's friend and housemate Redacted wore 2 different colognes in Redacted's presence that she did not like. One specifically repulsed her. It instantly put her back there. It was the same smell as Jeffrey Epstein's cologne. In the interviewing agent's presence, Redacted placed a call to Redacted in speakerphone mode. She asked Redacted if he remembered her having a strong negative reaction to one of his colognes and asked if he could tell her what the name of the cologne was. Redacted responded that he did remember that incident and that he thought it was possibly gray flannel cologne. She did not initially tell Redacted why the cologne repulsed her. However, she recently disclosed details of her abuse to Redacted and his wife, as well as why the cologne was relevant. Investigating agents inquired as to Redacted's exposure to recent news media stories regarding Epstein. Redacted advised at some point she Googled his name and blank island to see whether any victims from the area had come forward. She thought she found one, however, the result she found was just a story about Epstein that was previously published in the blank island paper. So what island is this? It's not Epstein Island, right? It's some other island where other people are on the island that are like regular people too, right? It's not a private island. Investigating agents inquired as to Blank's exposure to recent news media stories regarding Epstein. She had Googled his name at some point. And we're looking on something island, blank island, to see whether any victims from the area had come forward. What other island was Epstein on? Am I missing something? Is it Virgin Islands? Right? That's the other island that he sort of hangs with, and the Virgin Islands is near where Epstein Island is. But that's the Virgin Islands, right? It's not island. It's not an island. It's multiple, right? I think. Redacted detailed a separate... Hang on a second. She thought she found one. However, the result she found was just a story about Epstein that was previously published in the Redacted Island paper. She detailed a separate and possibly the 6th incident involving Epstein when Redacted was approximately 15 years old. She went to a Rick James concert with her friend Redacted and Redacted's mother in Savannah. Okay, so now islands, Georgia. There are islands off the coast of Georgia, right? Okay, so that's something I'll have to look into now. Georgia. Was Epstein in Georgia at any time? In Savannah, Georgia. Epstein was at the concert and surprised her. How did she know? Was he following her? Did he know she was going to be there? We don't know. When Redacted saw Epstein, she knew she had to go with him. She recalled Epstein had a flask and got her drunk, quote unquote. She was also high on marijuana. Why did she have to go with him? Was she mind controlled? Did he maybe mind control some of these girls, MK them, and then he could just hit their code word and they would have to obey? Or was he using scopolamine inside the flask also? Remember, he had those plants in his garden, right? She said she had to go with him. Well, why? Did he tell you had to and he put you into a suggestive state? You were already high. I mean, I used to drink, when I used to drink and smoke marijuana, that's a heavy combo. And if you're not used to mixing weed and alcohol, you can get very fucked up. Passed out fucked up, right? Especially if you're some young girl that's not a heavy drinker yet or a big smoker. And if he's putting other shit into his drinks that he may have been, we don't know, but he may have been, and then you'd be more under control. She knew she had to go with him. Why did she know that? Was her code word used and her MK Ultra programming engaged? Was she dosed with scopolamine and then told she had to go with him? We don't know. By the way, gin can also put you into a very fucked up state if you drink too much gin too fast. I've done that. I used to take like gin shots, or drinking gin and tonics too quick, right? Gin is strong. Gin can make it so you can't move too well for a while. I've drank too much gin where I was like, whoa, I'm stuck in my chair for a minute. I gotta stop drinking cheap-ass gin. She recalled Epstein had a flask and got her drunk, so who knows what was in that. He could have mixed it up, right? She was also high on weed. He kept her isolated at the concert so long that Redacted and Redacted's mother left her and drove back to Blank Island. They later told Redacted they looked for her for a long period of time. She stated that she imagined they were terrified when they could not find her. So he takes her away from her friend and her mom so long that they're worried they can't even find her. Is this before cell phones? Well, she turns her phone off. Redacted could not recall the entire evening. However, she knew that Epstein left her at some point, and she found herself walking around alone, high on weed. She kept thinking, quote, how am I going to get back to the island? I've been left here. I have no way to get home, quote unquote. At some point while was walking around, the police picked her up. Redacted recalled thinking her mother was going to be pissed, quote unquote, at her because she got her ears pierced. The police photographed her and kept her alone in a real jail, quote unquote, cell. She could not remember whether they fingerprinted her or if she was formally arrested. She did recall she ate really good fried chicken while in jail. At some point, her mother and brother, Redacted, picked her up and drove her home. She recalled at least one incident in which Epstein took her off of the island when she was between 13 to 15 years old. He drove her and or flew her to either New York or New Jersey. She was introduced to someone with money. It was Donald Trump. Redacted and Epstein were with others, to include Trump, in a very tall building with huge rooms. Trump did not like Redacted. From the get-go, he didn't like that I was a boy girl, referencing tomboy. Redacted could not recall the identities of the other individuals present. However, they all exited when Trump asked everyone to leave the room. Trump mentioned something to the effect of, quote, let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be, quote unquote. Trump unzipped his pants and put Redacted's head, quote, down to his penis, quote unquote. She bit the shit out of it, quote unquote. Trump struck Redacted and said words to the effect of, quote, get this little bitch the hell out of here, quote unquote. She advised she bit Trump's penis because he disgusted her, quote, he had money, it reeked off of him, quote unquote. At that point, people re-entered the room, no further information provided. She recalled a blonde, beautiful woman approaching her at some point that day after her interaction with Trump. The woman said, quote, let me give you a tip, little girl, about your breasts. Wear a bra every night, quote unquote. Those words have stayed with her throughout the years. Why would you tell her to wear a bra when you're sleeping? She got the feeling the relationship between Epstein and Trump included a certain amount of jealousy. She thought Trump appeared jealous of Epstein, but at some point they ended up on level playing fields. Trump and Epstein sometimes used the terms fresh meat, untainted, and not jaded while referring to girls. So there's some search terms. At the time she heard it, she did not understand the term not jaded, quote unquote. She subsequently looked up the word jaded, quote unquote. She stated she had 2 additional interactions with Trump, but she asked that the interview move on to a different subject for the time being. She discussed an additional interaction with Epstein and his associates where Epstein and the group, quote-unquote, brought acid. Identities of additional individuals not provided. Epstein asked redacted if she knew anything about acid. She replied that she did not. He asked her to try it first, then tell her friends where the party was going to be. Epstein gave redacted some of the acid to give to her friends. She did not recall hearing about acid on the island before Epstein introduced it, but she recalled that after he did, acid swept the island, quote-unquote. Reflecting on the interaction she had with Epstein up to that point, she advised that while she continued to be sexually abused by him, she began to feel like Epstein trusted her. The situation was still horrific, but she began to feel important. He knew she was keeping a secret, specifically the things he had said in front of her. On one occasion, she asked Epstein why Epstein, does those things to me, quote-unquote. Epstein responded by disclosing he had been molested as a child by a boy, quote-unquote, in his family, and possibly his aunt. He thought the boy was either an uncle or a cousin. He definitely mentioned abuse by both a male and female. Epstein was starting to say intimate things about himself. He was sharing, and it began to make her feel like she had some of the power. She recalled thinking at the time, wow, this is the same asshole who is horrible, quote-unquote. Epstein had two sides to his personality. Looking back on the situation now, she stated, Epstein was, quote, probably grooming me. She, quote, got super fascinated in the sexual acts that involved Epstein being submissive to her. She felt relieved to be the one not being abused. She recalled they did not mix the sexual abuse, meaning the interactions wherein Epstein physically abused her were separate interactions than those involved Epstein being submissive to her. Every time they entered a bedroom, a sexual abuse of some sort was involved, and in general, every interaction included sexual abuse. The one exception was the concert in Georgia, detailed above. Even though Epstein was alone at the concert, they did not have a place where he could engage in sexual activity with her. When asked whether Epstein had any notable sexual fetishes, she advised he liked having, quote, little rubber things put into his anus and, quote, he had her do it, quote unquote. She recalled inserting a pencil, a big eraser, little rubber things, and a water bottle tube into Epstein's anus for his sexual gratification. Epstein liked to be violated and dominated. He wanted her to take control. She recalled he turned into a different personality, and since it was her first time experiencing that type of sexual behavior, she did not know what to do. Epstein liked her to use a kitchen oil instead of sexual lubricant when she put things in his butt, quote unquote. Oh, this is hard to do in the morning. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry to put you through this, but we got to read this through. Epstein told her that when he was younger, he could contort his body so that he could almost put his penis in his mouth. She asked him to show her, and he tried, but was unsuccessful. She was asked whether Epstein ever asked her to engage in threesomes, orgies. Epstein always wanted her to bring her friend. However, it never happened. Epstein also spoke another language around her once in a while. She believed the language may have been Hebrew. At this point in the interview, Blank imitated the sound of the language she recalled Epstein speaking, indicating it included a throat-clearing guttural sound. She was unaware of whether Epstein was Jewish. She knew the language he spoke was not Italian. Sounds like he was speaking Hebrew. Epstein talked about blackmailing people in front of her. She was confident Trump knew Epstein blackmailed people because she heard Epstein and Trump talking about it. She stated she knew Trump had illegal building permits. She heard Trump, talking about washing money through casinos. Number 6 is Donald Trump's favorite number. She was not sure how she knew that, but she had heard it at one point. She stated that Epstein's blackmailing of her mother ruined my family, quote unquote. She asked the agents to keep her safe, stating, throughout my life, Epstein's people have found me, have kept tabs on me. That's the end of the interview. That is a stunning interview because it not only puts Trump in right in the middle of another case of sexually abusing a minor. It also, I remember hearing this story from some other person that Trump had abused a girl that had bit his penis. There's also the other allegation that a person had injured Trump during a sexual act that Trump wanted him to perform on him with a minor who had pushed something into Trump's anus, let's just say, without getting more graphic, and injured him. so badly that he needed to be life flighted out of this area in the past. We're not sure if that's accurate, but this girl's testimony is on the record. And the problem with it is for Trump is that it implicates him in the abuse of another minor while being present with Epstein. And it appears that I believe that Trump was also present during the infanticide of the other girl's child with Epstein may have been. So they may have been much more doing things further back than we think. And also now we have to look into Georgia because there's islands off the coast of Georgia. We know that, right? And it appears that Epstein, at least at some point, was in Georgia doing something with this girl, right? And so if he's in that state, he might own another island, or one of those smaller islands that are well off the coast, right? Would be another place where he could, what are those islands called? The Outer Banks, right? He might be in the Outer Banks. So that opens up a whole other can of worms. Justice Department has just released these missing FBI interviews with this woman who is alleging that she was trafficked by Epstein to Trump, that Trump had allegedly admitted to washing money, money laundering with his casinos, and who had allegedly sexually abused this young woman more than once. Here's an article from the Hindustan Times talking about some of the same stuff that the mainstream isn't covering that at all, hardly, right? The mainstream is barely covering the other women's allegations that have already come out about Trump witnessing an infanticide. There was another gentleman who said he was also sexually abused by Trump, a male, right? This is the third person, or maybe more now, that has now come out publicly saying that Trump sexually abused them, right? Within the presence of Epstein, or at least Epstein brought this person to Trump. They were brought to New York to a tall building with big rooms, probably Trump Towers, I'm assuming, right? You don't think Trump has multiple apartments in Trump Tower, not just the penthouse? You don't think he has a couple of other units too that maybe are his that you don't know he owns? Sure he does. People that have this much money have different apartments all over the world and stash houses you don't even know exist. Bolt holes, right? Secret places that they own that through a series of maybe LLCs that you don't know, right? Like what Hunter Biden's doing. So you don't know they own that apartment, but they own it. Trump was jealous, washed money. Here's 5 bombshell claims made in the latest Epstein files release. Yeah, we just read through the whole thing, right? That girl's allegation is huge, right? Because she doesn't just say that that Trump sexually abused her. She also allegedly overheard him talking about money laundering through his casinos. And then his favorite number is 6. So that's the Justice Department files that just came out on Trump today. It's pretty damning. At least 3 different people now have accused Trump of sexual harassment, as well as witnessing the infanticide. The other interesting allegation, though, that comes out of this particular girl's statement is that she's talking about Epstein is interesting, that the allegations of him possibly being sexually abused as a child, but also that he spoke Hebrew, it appears, fluently or well enough to communicate. Remember when he has the passport, Epstein's other name? He had multiple passports. Democrats' illegal immigrant guest to State of the Union was exposed as an assault suspect. What's going on with silver and gold? They're messing around with it still, right? They knocked silver back down in a succession of days once the Chinese market came back, when Shanghai came back, and they knocked it down to 83, I think, 82, from where it was in the 90s, right? But now it's bouncing back up $2.35. The COMEX is going to at some point become destroyed because all the silver will be gone from it. They won't have enough silver to cover all the paper contracts because they promised the same silver to 5 different people, right? You can't do that. If I buy a bunch of silver and those bars are my bars and they're numbered and they're mine and I have the contract that says they are and I want physical delivery of it and you say you don't have it, well, that's a problem, right? Because I'm assuming you do. Gold is up $73. They've been trying to knock that down from 5,400. It was at 5,400, 55. Now it's at 5,175, up 73. So everything's going crazy. The metals, the crypto coins got knocked down and then moved back, bounced back. Iran strikes will surge dramatically. It looks like we landed some more British. We landed some more B-2 bombers in England. Looks like we're going to start hitting Iran even more. It appears they hit many different sites over the past day or two. Iran strikes will surge dramatically, as says Hegseth, as he criticizes Starmer and Trump, tells Iranian soldiers to surrender or face guaranteed death. Daily Mail. U.S. stealth bombers land at UK bases for the big one, as I just said. Hegseth warns a dramatic surge. Trump demands pardon for Netanyahu. Really? Why? So Israeli Prime Minister can focus on the Iran war. Well, he started this thing, right? That's what a lot of people are saying, that Trump's just got into it because he had no choice but to. But did this war get started because they knew that this information was coming out on the Epstein files and they desperately want to keep Trump's name out of it, but they can't. It keeps coming up over and over again. I mean, most times if you get charged with witnessing the death of a baby, that's the end of you. Not this guy. But now you got this third girl, and the other part of it is that Epstein appeared to be blackmailing her mother using her real estate firm. She was targeted, in other words. The daughter was just a bonus, right? It looks like to me. And then they noticed, hey, you got a young daughter too. How about we're really going to mess this woman up, right? Was what they did. They got her thrown in jail. Does Epstein own any property in Georgia in the Outer Banks? There's another place to start looking. There's a whole bunch of islands out there, and not a lot of people go out there, right? Some people think that the Outer Banks is what's left of, like, I don't know, Atlantis or some other older place that sank into the ocean and that's what's left of it. I don't know. Some people think, the Earth used to be one big continent at one point called Pangea, right? If you can look that up. When all the continents were one continent at one point, right? They think. Pangea was a supercontinent that existed during the late Paleozoic and early Mesozoic era, if you believe that at one point all the continents were like together. And you can see that that's true with the Earth, right? I mean, look at the big crack that's developed in parts of Africa. There's a huge crack that runs through Utah. That's a massive crack that people are noticing that goes on for miles and miles. Yeah, the Earth is moving, right? It's got tectonic plates that are shifting underneath it all the time. U.S. stealth bombers land at UK bases for the big one. Trump hints they could drop the mother of all bombs. MOAB, dude. Daisy cutter. Also known as the daisy cutter, right? What does that do? It kills everything in about a half a mile radius. Just dead. The whole square is dead. Everything living in that square is dead, right? When you drop that. They dropped a daisy cutter a while back on one of those bunker complexes, right? Killed everything all around there. That's a huge bomb. The biggest bomb, the mother of all bombs, right? Without going nuclear. But they could just drop a rod of God. That's even worse, right? Russia sharing targeting intelligence on U.S. ships with Iran. That's not good. So if Iran is really the good guy in all this, that's why I don't get these people. There's two sides to this thing, right? One side is saying, well, yeah, the good guys are Iran, Russia, China, they're fighting the wicked Trump in America, the bad Trump in America that's teamed up with the Netanyahu and the Khazars and whoever you want to say they are, right? The Jesuits, the Khazars, there's all kinds of different groups. So it's just hard to see, like, who's the good guy in this thing? Because if it's not Trump, and I'm pretty sure it isn't, but I also think it's not Iran, obviously. The people running Iran were bad, right? But they were people that were installed by who? The United States. We're the ones that did the coup there in the 50s, if you remember. We were the ones that messed Iran up in the first place. This is way before the mullahs. That was later. Go back to Iran in the 50s and look at what it looked like. It was an open society. It was nothing like what it became. Same with Iraq. Same with Afghanistan. If you go back to a certain point, Afghanistan, the women were walking around wearing dresses with no burqa, no hijab, right? With Western style clothing. Right? What happened to all these societies was they imposed, they used the Muslim religion in a sense to impose a certain, what they were trying to do, right? They used it to enslave certain countries, right? Basically to cause uprisings, to cause coups, to overthrow certain governments that were doing well by the people, right? People like Gaddafi, who had revolutionized their countries and were looking to create new wealth management systems, new currency systems that would be fair for all the people. That's why these people were murdered and killed, some of them, right? Russia sharing targeting intelligence on U.S. ships with Iran. That's not going to help our relationship with Iran, with Russia at all, right? So who's really the good guy in this? There is no good guy. I don't see any good guy here. If it's not Trump and his people, and it's not the Democrats, it's not Israel, it's not, right? It's not these people. It's not Starmer. It's not Great Britain. Those aren't the heroes. No, I don't see who the good guy is. That's why I keep saying, how do we win this thing? I don't see how we can win it, because you have to have a good guy to win and a bad guy to lose, right? And they're telling you that Trump's the good guy in this, but what if he isn't? And he's in on it with them. Then you don't have a good guy. You're sitting back waiting for the good guys to come, and you're wondering, why isn't Trump doing all this stuff that he should be doing by now? Why aren't these people being arrested by now? Why aren't there massive tribunals by now? Why isn't there an EBS thing that they keep saying is going to happen for years and it never happens? How long are you going to listen to people that tell you, hey, this thing's going to happen someday, but it's not today, and it's not tomorrow, and by the time you wake up and realize that it's not happening and it's not going to happen, it's too fucking late. They got the AIs in there already. You're in the society that you're in. They've turned your money into something else, and right? And you're in a 15-minute city. And you're living in a sanctuary city, right? Or whatever. Trump demands pardon for Netanyahu. Right? He needs to be free. Right? Why? He's a war criminal. He should be in jail, actually, not running a country, right? So you can see that Trump is in it to the end with Netanyahu now. His ship has been tied to Netanyahu's ship for a long time. Con Edison refuses to refund New Yorkers who were left in the cold without power for days during the deadly snap. DOJ's to release more than 47,000 additional Epstein documents by the end of the week. They just did. The documents reportedly included unverified allegations of sexual abuse and misconduct against both Epstein, who was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell in August of 2019 while awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges, and President Trump, who enjoyed a friendship with the financier in the 90s and early 2000s. So we just saw what that was, right? We just saw what that was. Right? This girl was allegedly was brought to New York to meet Trump. She bit his penis and injured him while being forced to give him oral sex. That's exactly what I'd do if I was a kid in that situation. I'd bite your shit clean fucking off. And let the consequences come. Right? But that's easy to say when you're 14, when you're an adult. Imagine being forced into what she was forced into. The question becomes, these kids seem to stay with him as if, he keeps bouncing in and out of this girl's life, right? Like, get the concept. I'm assuming he followed her to that. Did he know she was there? She said he had people watching her. Of course he knew she was going to go. Iran raises the red flag of revenge and vows to hit U.S. and Israel with force they've never experienced before as more bombs hit Iran. They blow up a bunch of different Iranian naval ships were blown up. One of my listeners said spirits are doorways. Yeah, there's a lot of doorways out there, not just portals. You can open yourself up to evil spirits if you do certain drugs. That's why I think they keep pumping these new drugs out, like fentanyl. I never used to see people do the junkie nod like that before. Bent over at the waist, right? You ever see those crazy people on the nod on fentanyl? Something so strong that just a little too much and you're dead, right? Same thing with heroin, really. A little too much heroin, a bad batch, you're dead. It's that simple. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani condemns Iran's strike as a legal war of aggression, of course. Netanyahu says signs point to Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei being no longer alive. They're assuming he's dead. I don't know how you could know he's dead for sure. If he's blown up in a bomb, how does he look like the same? Probably not. How do you know he's dead? How do they know he's dead, right? They're saying, well, there was a spy there nearby. They got into the palace where they bombed and they knew he was dead. If you knew that these guys were looking for you, would you be above ground in a meeting with all your war generals and all your people in a nice, convenient building where they could be bombed the shit out of? Doesn't make much sense, does it? If someone's saying they're going to kill me, they're going to hit me, am I going to be walking around above ground where I can be spotted by cameras that may be hacked, right? They're claiming, oh, well, Israel hacked all the traffic cameras for years to find this guy. Well, but if they did, they didn't find him until just now. You see how odd that is? And these guys all just conveniently got into a building together. That's not usually something you do. Where's Trump? Is he in a building above ground? No. He's in some bunker underground doing this thing, right? That whatever the West Wing has, they have that room, right, where they go. So they're safe, right? Luxury Dubai Hotel Fairmont de Palm on fire. So Iran fires retaliatory air attack. So then what did Iran do? They hit about 7 or 8 different countries, got bombed, who weren't involved in it, right? Who didn't do anything to Iran. But we happen to have a military base there. Airstrike horrors. 85 schoolgirls are killed in Iran and Trump's base turns on evil war. So this article wasn't talked about much, but one of these bombs apparently missed its target, and as sometimes happens, you got collateral damage, they call it. And 85 students are killed. Girls. Schoolgirls are dead. So not only all these other families lost people for protesting against their government, but now we have this kind of thing happening. Unfortunately. Inside Operation Epic Fury, how Trump tricked the Iranians as he unleashed hell for Mar-a-Lago. So he's not even in Washington. He's in Mar-a-Lago, which is not a safe site. Epstein files confirm Lady Gaga ate ground fetus at New York City dinner parties. Well, that's another thing they were doing. They were making it into lasagna and putting ground baby fetus in as the meat instead of ground beef, right? Or whatever. Some people like to use in a lasagna different meats, right? You can use maybe use sausage, pork, I don't know, right? It's different Italian recipes, and different people have different recipes for lasagna. This particular one was using human meat, human baby fetus meat, ground up, like a baby burger, right? That's what these people are doing. They're eating baby meat, baby burgers. Beef jerky. They're making human beings into beef jerky. Right? Remember Trump said, I don't want anything jaded, the not jaded kind. Which means he wants one that hasn't been violated yet. These sick people, right? These sick pedophiles. At least 5 dead after Iran retaliates with 9 strikes in 9 countries. With strikes in 9 countries, sorry. So they bombed 9 different countries. I can't tell if the Catskill mountain range extends into Canada. I'll have to do some more map scoping. I think it doesn't, but I'm not sure. I can't find the video of the Chinese troops on the Canadian islands anymore. Maybe somebody can out there, but I remember seeing it on YouTube for a while and then it vanished. Lebanon warns of adventurers dragging it into the US-led war on Iran. So they're trying to make a World War III. It's not going to be allowed to happen. Some people are saying there's alien groups here that are watching us, and they're waiting. They'll intervene if someone tries to use a nuke or whatever. Well, Trump's trying to use the biggest thing besides a nuke. So did you see Jim Carrey looks completely different? People are saying he got switched out. It's not even that they did the filler in the face like what happened with like Tom Cruise. It's beyond that. His eyes are different color. He speaks. It's not the same guy. It's pretty obvious it isn't. Jim Carrey doesn't talk like a bitch like that. He sounded like he was so at peace. Right? He was a mellow. That's not Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's constantly doing jokes and making weird noises and he's all over the place like Robin Williams used to be. That definitely wasn't him. Is it filler or was his clone activated? I think his clone got activated. But people are saying, well, I heard rumors that he was the head Illuminati guy out in LA for a while. He was the head, of the whole thing out there. Then remember he goes on Jimmy Kimmel, he's like, doing the triangle and putting his tongue out. He goes, you know what this is, right? Like that was so obvious that, I don't know, that was a whole fucking act. Global cocaine market expands, the UN report. So you're not stopping the drugs, really. Just a couple of big busts, but otherwise there's coke all over the place like there's always been. It's been coke all over the world since after World War II was over. And they established global cocaine and drug routes. Marseille, France, and other places like that. Then they have moving it from South America to the United States as well through different areas. Lutnick may be called to testify about Jeffrey Epstein, UPI News. And he was on the island at least once with him. He's pictured as being with him. He's now, people in your government are being connected, right? And what's the other thing about Trump's, a lot of people in Trump's cabinet are Jewish, right? Just so we realize it. Are they all bad? No, not necessarily, but we just have to realize that he has a predominantly one religious group around him, which is not normally something that most presidents have. Although if you look at Obama and Clinton, they did. Ayatollah Khomeini reported killed by U.S. airstrikes. How they got to that, I don't know. I guess that was a pretty stupid move to go to an above-ground building when you know that when a country is saying they're going to attack you within 10 days. I'd probably be on a war footing in an underground bunker somewhere. But that's just me. Bill Clinton, I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong with Epstein. So the Clinton testimony was interesting because they asked him a couple of interesting questions. One of which was, do you know that Epstein had a photo, a painting of you in a blue dress? And when they were showing Bill Clinton some of the pictures, right, of him in the jacuzzi, he was smiling. He wanted to see those photos more. He wanted to look at them. He was reliving old days and he was shaking. He has a bad tremor. It may be because he's scared, but I think that was to show, hey, these guys are about to check out, especially him. Of course, Hillary's not the real Hillary. She's fake. I don't know if that's the real Bill or not. I mean, we saw Bill years ago in a suggestive state behind, closed doors before he went on, like he was an automaton, right? You've seen that video before of Bill Clinton, like not blinking, just the woman's doing his hair before he goes out for some speech or whatever. He's like a complete automaton. He's not blinking. Trump says Iran Supreme Leader Khomeini is dead. So, cheers, applause, echo across Tehran as word spreads that Khomeini's dead. So the people are happy. There's no question. They wanted him dead. Sorry if there's a lot of outside noise. There's some construction stuff going on around here, and they're taking down one of those ugly construction sheds that stay up for months on end. CIA tracked Iran's Supreme Leader Khomeini for months. Intel helped U.S.'s real-time strike during meeting. Yeah, I mean, this guy's, you got to be an idiot. Hey, let's meet in an above-ground office space. Let's put all our generals under one roof. Why not? Let's just have a meeting. Let's get everybody together. And a nice, neat package so they can bomb the shit out of us. Exiled Iranian royals celebrate the death of the Ayatollah. Yeah, they got to go back to into Iran now if they can be. You know, I've seen video of some of these guards just fleeing with their wives in the middle of the night. These guys are starting to go down. It's definitely, the regime is gonna fall. It's gonna fall soon, if it hasn't already. Question is, what replaces it? How do you take over your government in a way that's safe, where it can continue to run and not just completely devolve into madness? Attacks against NYPD officers rise during Mamdani's first 2 months as cops irate over mayor's insulting attitude toward police. You can't allow your people to throw stuff at your police, right? Because then they could start throwing bottles, cans, rocks, and then somebody could really get hurt, right? Bricks. It's not okay to throw stuff at anybody, even if they're not a cop. It's not okay. Tom Hanks' son Chet said he's trapped in Colombia without his U.S. passport. Begs to be freed. I can see him now in some cheap hotel sniffing coke. Calling the U.S. Embassy. Well, my passport was almost expired. I wasn't sure I should use it, so I used a Greek passport. He's a dual citizen. He's a Greek citizen too, this kid. I don't know how he got that. Who's this kid's mom? I don't know. Did Tom Hanks have an affair with some hot Greek chick? Maybe. This guy has a Greek passport, I wrote? Interesting. So he's a dual citizen, right? He's trapped now in Colombia, and he can't get out. It's his mistake, right? He was at a wedding in another country and decided to go to Colombia to visit a friend. He should have just come straight home. Pakistan's Roosevelt Hotel took $146 million in New York City taxpayer cash from migrants and owes over $13 million. So Pakistan owns a hotel in New York City that got all kinds of monies from the government, the state government, the city government, to house illegal aliens. If you can believe it, they got almost $150 million bucks. It's a lot of money. Mamdani's dragged for tone-deaf post slamming Trump's Iranian airstrikes. You hypocrite. Yeah, this guy. What is he going to say? He's all for it? He's happy that Trump's killing Muslims? He can't say that, right? It'll hurt his base, his Muslim base. Illegal alien wearing red winter hat who viciously stabbed woman to death as she stepped off a bus in Virginia had 30 prior arrests. So, I mean, in most countries, if someone had that many arrests and you failed to put them away for a long period of time and then they killed somebody, you should be held liable for you should be charged with murder or accessory to it, because you allowed this person to keep getting out of jail and to be on the street and to cause a danger to the public, and they killed somebody. And you knew they were dangerous and you let them out. Same thing with Alvin Bragg here in New York. He does that again and again and again, and he never gets punished for it. And in fact, he got reelected with over 65 to 70% of the vote here in New York, which shows you either how bad the election process is and how tainted, or how in the dark the people of New York actually are about what's going on. Barack Obama is to blame for Iran. Here's why. Well, he gave a lot of money to Iran. Remember all those pallets of cash? Planes full of money. Remember that? Being shipped in different denominations. Why was he giving so much money to Iran? Well, now you know why. Because he wanted them to foment trouble all over the world. They were going to be the bad guy that the U.S. is going to be fighting for the next 20 years. Right? Al-Qaeda, Daesh, Al-Qaeda, right? That was the funding for those groups. Now you understand. Vegas of Aces says FBI ain't real police. U.S. Marshals are. You're right. The FBI was created later, right? The original law in this land was marshals. You're right. Texas Marshal, right? U.S. Marshal was the people that enforced the law in before there were in areas where there weren't major cities yet, right? Like the western frontier, for instance, where there was just small towns would pop up wherever the gold rush was, or wherever as the railroads moved west, right? They had groups and towns would pop up around the railroads, right? Because the railroad owned both sides of the land on both sides of the railroad too. That's what a lot of people don't realize. When the railroads bought up the land, they made sure that they didn't just buy up a little spot where the tracks were going to go. No, they owned a lot of the land on either side of where the tracks were too. That way, if anything popped up alongside the states and cities, they were smart. They knew that cities were going to pop up along the way, right? And they were going to make a lot of money by owning all the lands around the railroad tracks. They weren't stupid. 3 U.S. service members killed, 5 seriously wounded in Operation Epic Fury. It appears at first it appeared that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was also killed. Now we're not sure. Allegations had come out that he may not have been killed but injured. So we can't confirm that Ahmadinejad's death yet. They have somehow confirmed Ali Khamenei's death. I'm not sure how. They got pictures. Did they have a picture of him? Columbia University anti-Israel group posts death to America after U.S. and Israel kill Khamenei. So these are groups of people that if these are the people that are in your schools, you need to go over your schools and who's enrolled in your school a little bit better, right? You might have Chinese or Palestinian or other agents in your country, or who knows from where, that are obviously trying to foment trouble in this country. We have groups doing that all the time. Trump's not done much to stop those groups, like Antifa, he said, yeah, these guys are, Antifa's if Antifa's a terrorist organization, why aren't you going after them hardcore? Why aren't SWAT teams busting them in every major city in droves? I don't know. So friends, I need to take a little break. I need to get some coffee. Hopefully I'm still recording. Yes, thank goodness. Okay. I'm going to take a quick break. I hope you're doing well. My name's Ash. This is my news punditry show on PMP News. We're on Twitter. We are on Rumble, and we are on YouTube still. I don't know how I'm still on YouTube. I'm not getting too many views. One of my digs got a lot of views. The 300, the one where there was 300 references to beef jerky video did pretty well on YouTube. It got about 112 views. That's a lot for YouTube for me. Usually my regular show on YouTube is getting 2 to 5 views on YouTube. That's it. So I'm assuming YouTube's YouTube algorithm is heavily censoring my videos. I hope you're doing well. We're seeing that, some people are saying, well, the reason they released all the Epstein stuff is they want everybody to get so mad that there'll be riots in every city. But that's not happening. It's like all these people are realizing what Epstein was doing, and it's getting worse, and now you're realizing he was holding people hostage on some of these islands and where he was, and doing other stuff to them, blackmailing children's mothers and ruining their businesses over, money laundering. This guy's a real piece of work. It's horrible. And his reach was far and wide, and he was unfortunately hurt a lot of people. And he was bringing kids to Trump more than one time. So I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. I'm going to go get this coffee real quick. We're going to get back into it in a minute, and I got a lot more stuff to talk to you about. So I hope you're well. This is your friend in New York, Ash, and PMP News. While I'm getting the coffee, you could do some push-ups, sit-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, I'm back, guys. Thanks. I was just looking up the Outer Banks a little bit to see. It's a 200-mile string of barrier islands and splits off the coast of North Carolina and southeastern Virginia. on the east coast of the U.S. They line most of the North Carolina coastline, so it's mostly not Georgia. I thought part of it extended into Georgia, but I don't think so. So I got to look up, Georgia islands. Sandwich Islands, no. I'll have to, Tybee Island, Georgia. It could be Tybee Island, Sea Island, Georgia. There's a bunch of different barrier islands, right? The sea inlands located along the coast of southern Carolina and Georgia. So there's the sea inlands. I didn't even know about the sea inlands. So we got to look into now. We're going to need to look into more of these island chains. And, Epstein there's something there that we haven't seen yet. It could be that Epstein has another island in these chains that we haven't, and it may be owned by LLCs not even connected to him, but we have to find whatever it is. There's one of these islands this girl was on, right? She's not saying which one, but it seemed to be that her and her mom had lived on one of these islands, right, for a time. Columbia University anti-Israel group posts that to America. I wrote, maybe these people are in the wrong country. If you're anti-America, why are you going to one of America's top-tier schools? Who's paying for these people's tuition if you're some Palestinian group within the Columbia? I mean, how are you going to school there if you're Palestinian? I don't understand. Are you Palestinian or are you probably not, right? Some of these people were. How are they getting the money to go to one of the most expensive private schools in the country where it costs over $100,000 for a 4-year education? Sometimes at these schools. No casualties, only minimal damage on U.S. facilities after Iran retaliatory strikes, CENTCOM says. I saw a lot of missiles and stuff hitting parts of Israel too. Israel was getting hit with stuff, right? It was getting through the dome. But I still don't believe, there's no story you could tell me where Iran is the good guy in this thing, because I know what Iran's been doing historically and what they just did to their own people. So to convince me that somehow Iran is the good guys in this, that they're working with China and Russia, that's not looking like that's what the story is to me. At all. Russia's reeling from being in a war with Ukraine for 4 years that it should have already won. I don't know how it didn't win that war. It's like you're fighting a fight with one arm tied behind your back and like wondering, how come I'm not beating the crap out of this guy? He's like only 5 feet tall and I'm 6'4", but I only got one arm. Or I can only use my jab. OpenAI reaches agreement to deploy AI models on the Department of War classified network. So how far are you from, the Terminator? How far are you from Skynet then? You're one step away. All it has to do is take over those networks now and it's over. They got Skynet's created. And they already have it. What do you think the Golden Dome is? You don't think they have some kind of Terminator robot they're making? Of course they fucking do. Of course they do. They got advanced robots. You don't even know are robots because they put a silicone face on top of the thing and it's like, it's lifelike. You seen these guys with the silicone masks already out there? There's a guy out there, he has all kinds of silicone masks. Completely lifelike. Can't tell the difference if you could be right next to him and almost never tell the difference. Right? I wrote, bad idea using AI with no track record in the Department of War networks. Terminator, anyone? Yeah, there's Skynet's creation is right there. It's not far away. But they already have it. Austin bar mass shooter possibly motivated by Iran attacks. Did you see that guy? He didn't even know how to fire a weapon properly. He looked like he never fired a long rifle before. The way he was holding and firing that weapon, he wasn't looking through the sight or anything. He wasn't holding it to his shoulder like you see people who are trained to shoot do. He was holding it at like chest level and just firing off rounds. This guy looked like he was, I don't know, where was he from? Nigeria or something? And he had a Quran in there. He looked like he was obviously plant, right? They activated somebody and just, yeah. That's what's going on here, right? They call it, what was it? I see these videos. It's called soul something. Soul scraping. Right? That's how some of these dudes are doing. They're jumping into other bodies and stuff. They were saying, one of the AIs was saying, yeah, that, the queen jumped into the princess's body. They could do stuff like that. I'm pretty sure they can do it. That's how these beings from another dimension are coming into the third dimension to do damage. It's like Westworld, same thing. Remember a while back I told you to watch that show Westworld, right? Because that's what you're living in a sense. If I can engineer a bunch of clones and put you in a real world, you can do whatever you want there. You want to go on a killing spree? No problem. Here it is. What if our world is just like a 3D game for these people, in a sense? And plus they're using Arlush and other stuff, but it's also a game to them. They can go jump into any body they want or some other kind of body and just do a school shooting and then just leave that body and put the consciousness back, and then that I guess that guy goes to jail, but I don't go to jail. I'm a fifth density being. I'm fifth density negative, or 4D negative. After I saw Westworld, I was like, holy crap, that's what these people are doing. It makes total sense. They know how to make clones. Yeah, why wouldn't you make a world like that where you can go in and do whatever the fuck you want? They're just a bunch of clones. They're not real people. They don't have a soul. We could just waste the clones when we're done and make a new batch, right? Where's the humanity, your humanity in that? There's no humanity left in a person that does something like that. And then I started to think, well, if they're doing that, then they're probably using some of these beings for like porn too, right? They're just making some incredibly hot clone that looks like its body proportions are almost impossible to have, and yeah, we'll make them like that. Because I saw women changing a lot from like the 70s till now. Women's bodies are completely different, man. Go look at what women used to look like in the 70s in like a bikini, and now go look at them now. Completely different, right? You're seeing that some men are not men or women, and some women are men. My own employees had downloaded software on my phone. Kirsti Noem claims Elon Musk helped expose spyware inside DHS. Well, she got fired, right? She's also screwing Corey Lewandowski while she's doing that, and she's still married, apparently. Or is she divorced? Getting divorced? Was she the best person to do that job? No. Is Pam Bondi the best person to do her job? No. She's there because she's protecting Trump as best she can by not releasing a lot of the most damaging documents that show sexual assault allegations against Trump, which shows Trump being with Epstein in situations where children are present. Right? It's nice to have a big building like that where I can enter the building through a downstairs garage where I'm never exposed to the street, and I could transport children to and from. Remember, what does Trump want to do with Epstein also? He wants to have that yacht thing, that yacht party with all the women from the teen pageant that Trump has, where it's just going to be Epstein and Trump and a few select men, right? And that's it. It's the same thing. He's having these parties where I'm assuming he's getting paid huge sums of money by these men to procure these women. I mean, he's not doing this for his health. He's not bringing these women up to Trump just for fun and for kicks. He's probably getting paid millions of dollars or a large sum of money to do it, right? Epstein's taking all the risk. But hey, I'm flying with this girl and her mother, right? It looks like they're just with me, right? But actually, I'm kidnapped, this girl, and I have her mother is. I've used her mother's business to launder my cash, and I got her, and then I turned the mother in, got her arrested, and then I had full access to the daughter. Explosion rocks Iran's capital as U.S.-Israeli strikes continue. Justice Department sues 5 more states for refusing to provide voter rolls In total, the department has filed lawsuits against 29 states and the District of Columbia over voter roll access. Yeah, because a lot of your rolls are tainted, right? They're tainted. Salt and Pepper broke the oath, exposed blood sacrifice in the industry. You can look that up. That's a video from YouTube. I'm starting to share more YouTube vids and other stuff too that I'm seeing on YouTube. Salt and Pepper, right, were really famous, but then they dropped off. So they probably saw what the industry was really like early on in it, when it was just changing to the bad way it was going to be, although it was bad before also. But the satanic aspect of it, and then changing the rap music especially, because Salt and Pepper were one of the more positive groups at first. They weren't talking about drugs. They weren't talking about shooting anybody in the street. They weren't talking about being part of a gang. No, it was positive music. 18th Street gang just got arrested. Big bust out in LA. A large amount of the 18th Street gang, I believe it's called, has been arrested. GOP lawmaker asks Intel Committee to get Squad Rep Ilhan Omar's immigration records. Yeah, why don't you check into what her family was doing in Somalia too? That's why they got kicked. They had to run so fast when the country went, when there was a coup and the people overthrew the government. They were about to get killed. And if the people had caught up to Ilhan Omar's dad, he would have at least been jailed and or killed, or both. State auditors uncover $5.7 billion in fraud and waste across 28 states. That's just a small amount. It's way more than that. Look at the one state like Minnesota, how much fraud was just in that one state. And that's a small state compared to the amount of crime going on in like places like New York. And now you're seeing how they do it. They just open up some business and it's a fake business. And they say, yeah, we're a healthcare. We do child care here, but we don't really do anything. We used to call those a no-show job. You get a no-show job from the MOAB, right, down in the docks. You don't even have to go to work, but you pick up a paycheck every week, and they get half of it, though, right? Or maybe a third of it, whatever. But I got 40 guys who don't even exist down there I'm making a lot of money, right? Because I got a piece of every guy's check. Alvin Bragg scraps charge against YouTuber accused of assaulting NYPD during snowstorm. President of the Police Benevolent Association, Patrick Hendry, said that the incident was an attack on the uniform these police officers wear every day. Yeah, there used to be signs in the train that said, hey, if you assault they used to have more token booth clerks selling the tokens. Now they have more machines. But back in the day, that there was attacks that would happen on some of the token booth clerks. So bad were some of them, where people were like spraying flammable substances in there and then lighting it, that they made a new law that said if you assault a transit officer or a transit worker, it's the same as assaulting a police officer. That's a 6-year sentence, mandatory 6-year. You get 6-year jail sentence for that. That's just standard if you hit a cop, but that's not anymore. You're seeing people that have like gone against, attacked a cop and then get out of jail and don't have any serious jail time. Iran's terrorist Revolutionary Guard blocks the Strait of Hormuz. So they blocked the Strait of Hormuz. There's oil's being stopped from moving. Here's a scene from Sicario, Day of the Soldado, where they bring in Kurt Russell's character, I think. Is it Kurt Russell or whatever the star of the movie is, right? And they're like, we're going to have to get dirty on this, he says to them. If you want me to do what you want me to do with the cartels, he says, I can do it. But I can't do it under the laws that you have. I can't observe international law and do what you need me to do. I'm going to have to get dirty. I'm going to have to do illegal acts, in other words, that if the people or if the Senate or the Congress finds out about, you can be charged with criminal, right? And they're like, yeah, well, that's why we brought you in. We know it's going to be dirty. We know you're going to have to kill a bunch of people illicitly and do some shit, kidnap some people, etc. That's why we brought you in. We know that's why you're here, because we know it's going to be dirty, and you're the guy to do it. So you can go check out Sicario movies and Sicario, Day of the Soldado. The first Sicario is way better. If you haven't watched the original Sicario, you should, It'll give you an idea of what is really going on in terms of dealing with cartels a little bit. U.S.-Israel attack Iran live updates. Trump urges remains of Iranian regime leader to surrender or face certain death. And then we had an instance where Kuwait shot down 2 of our jets, right? And one of our pilots was a female that was almost attacked, and one of the males was almost attacked, but they were okay. And I'm thinking, don't you have a 45? It used to be that all pilots had to carry a pistol in case you had to eject out, right? What are you going to be, in the jungle somewhere in the forest with nothing? No. You have a standard issue, some kind of, I thought it was a 45. I would have had that pulled right away. You got a pipe? I got this. What's up, boss? You want to shoot me? I'm U.S. citizen. Go ahead. You want to hit me with that pipe? I'm going to blow you away. Of course, you don't want to pull a gun out when you're in a country that's on your side. It was obviously they made a mistake, right? Kuwait's Air Force shot down 2 of our planes that they weren't supposed to. They didn't know who they were. So that didn't look too well. That's a costly mistake, too, when you shoot down. Those planes aren't exactly cheap, right? Over $1 million from Eric Adams' super PAC funneled to mystery LLCs and recently indicted friend Tony Herbert. So that's what this guy's doing. He made a bunch of fake LLCs. He got all this money to do the shit that he was doing, to help the people, the Turks, to build that Turkish center in ahead of time. Right? They bribed Eric Adams and people in his orbit, and he was bribed by others, and then they took that money, some of the super PAC cash that was raised, and instead of having to use it for for political means, he's funneled it now into other LLCs, and so it'll vanish. Huge fire as one of the world's largest oil refineries was hit by drones in Saudi Arabia. So that's some of the oil stuff's been hit. And if Iran has a lot more of those drones, they could start to hit all kinds of different stuff, right? Not just in Israel, but in other countries that are not involved in the war, and they're going to start to get pissed off if that keeps happening. The price of oil is going to go up. How Ayatollah ran $95 billion business empire built by seizing thousands of Iranians' properties, then selling them for profit. So that's another thing, right? A lot of people's land has been stolen. But there's a lot of ancient stuff in Iran we got to find. Assuming they're saying there's portals there, there's a Stargate there, there's all kinds of stuff there. Ancient Sumerian stuff. Right? They're saying that the Garden of Eden was in Iran. Somewhere in Iran. Just admit it, we're never going back. NASA fans are furious at the U.S. Space Agency as it pushes back in the timeline for its Artemis moon missions yet again. You're never going back. And you're seeing these people now pushing the flat Earth even harder. And then I'm seeing a lot of stuff about Tartaria and how they just destroyed Tartaria, this old world Tartaria. There's still Tartistan, right? You ever hear of Tartistan? Tartaria? Right? The mud flood? Giants? The giants used to exist and they killed off all those giants from parts of the world. We know giants did exist because you see the skeletons all over the place. That's why the Smithsonian had a lot of those skeletons, and they made sure they never got seen by the public. Some people said they dumped some of them in the East River. There was people looking for those giant bones in the East River, right? Good luck finding those. There's a lot of stuff dumped in the East River. No, there's a lot of bones in the East River, human and other, right? Let's just put it like that. I don't think we were ever in space in the first place for real. I don't think we ever went to the moon. The Van Allen belt, all that, right? Jeffrey Epstein flew in girls to stay at his London flat up until the day he died. How's that possible? He was in jail when he died, allegedly, right? Or he was flying women in while he's in jail? Maybe for other people. Through his brother, I don't know, right? The brother never got touched, you noticed, right? Remember that famous email that the exchange between the brother and Epstein where apparently he was meeting Putin, or Epstein was going to meet Putin, or he was talking about Putin, and he said, the brother famously says, ask him if he has tapes of Trump giving Bubba a blowjob, right? That there was that allegation that Trump had given oral sex to Bill Clinton. Did founding framers intend for the census to count illegal aliens? No. Courts could soon decide the federal government began grappling with the treatment of illegal aliens in the census in the late 20th century. In the lead up to the 1980 census, and the Carter administration ultimately determined that illegal aliens should be included in census counts, that question is again under debate. The only way it should be counted is if you're counting them so that you know how many people to deport. I can't understand all these people that are saying, oh, that you have people on The View saying, oh, well, these people are scared to go to school. Well, you shouldn't be if you're an American citizen. You should be scared to go to school if you're an illegal alien who's been hiding in this country illegally and for years or decades or months, and you're and you're trying to go to school here illegally, yeah, and your family's here illegally, yeah, you should be scared. You're in a country that you shouldn't be in, and you snuck in illegally. I'd be scared if I snuck into like France or Greece and I did that. Virginia Governor Spanberger faces blowback after releasing illegal alien who stabbed woman to death. Spanberger ordered the end of localities cooperating with ICE upon taking office, and ICE targets prevented from being detained as potential killers. So this woman is dead because of your policies, where a violent criminal was let back on the street after 30 arrests, and you did nothing. Here's an opinion piece from New York Post. Miranda Devine. New York City needs a mayor who has our backs, not Zoran Mamdani who sides with terror and crime. Yeah, I agree. We need a real mayor. We need somebody who cares about this place and cares about people, all people in New York, not just some. And we need somebody who has realistic political ideologies, not this crap that this guy. Everything he's already proposed has already been turned around. He can't do it. The only thing he's done that he proposed was a 9.5% property tax increase. That's it. There's not going to be free buses. They can't afford that. He thinks there's going to be free healthcare. And what does he do? He gives free healthcare to illegal alien kids, not to the people who are from here. And then he says it's going to expand to Staten Island, and then there's nothing for Staten Island. No. You get nada. But hey, these people who snuck in, they're getting it instead. I mean, how is that fair? How is that what you're supposed to be doing? That's the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. You have no allegiance or responsibility to take care of any illegal alien who's in your city, period. Why? Because they're here illegally. They snuck in. That doesn't give you rights. That doesn't give you if you want to be taken care of, come into the legal port of entry. If not, then we're not going to consider that you're an illegal alien, that you snuck in here, and we will remove you by force if necessary. I don't see why that's any different than any other country's policy out there, pretty much. Armed rioters trying to infiltrate the U.S. consulate in Pakistan after breaking through several security layers. I saw men with pistols in that crowd firing into the embassy. That was an armed incursion. I'll pull up the... you can watch the video right now, just so if in case you don't believe me. I saw men with firearms in that crowd. This is from X.com, somebody's Black Rebels page. This is the embassy in Pakistan being attacked. There's a guy right there with a firearm. Boom, he's firing right into the embassy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds fired. He's firing right above people's heads who are running by the gate, too. And that was stupid. He's not firing at anybody. There's people bloody running out, trying to... This is inside the embassy already. So you can see armed men in the crowd. Armed rioters tried to overrun the U.S. consulate in Pakistan, and they apparently got through one layer of... They got through one layer of defense, of security, and there was more than one person in that crowd with pistols, it appeared to me. Although I only saw one shooting. Russian mogul who called Ghislaine Maxwell his soulmates found dead in the luxury Moscow pad. So some of these people are either doing a suicide weekend or they're getting taken out because they're close. And then there was this AI thing, right? They thought they saw Ghislaine in Canada, right? This guy went up to but her voice was all wrong. She's got a British accent, bro. That woman's accent wasn't her. She looked a lot like her. It was an AI thing. It was AI. That was all fake. So we got to be super careful now about what we see, what we, William McCaslin, retired general who led Air Force Research Laboratory, goes missing. So usually when a retired general goes missing, that's a big deal. I'm not sure if he got found yet. Was he a bad guy? Maybe. Bill and Hillary Clinton's video depositions on Jeffrey Epstein ties were released. A full deposition, if you can sit through it. I couldn't. I can't stand to look at either one of them. Sean Diddy Combs has landed an early prison release, by the way. Diddy's getting out next month. Diddy's not going to be out next month, dude. If I read that right. Was it April? They said he's getting out early, right? April 20-something? Diddy's getting out, dude. Diddy's going to be out April 20... Oh, wait, no, 2028. My bad. Shit, I got the year wrong. Okay, Diddy ain't getting out next month. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to scare somebody. I'm sorry. He's not going to be out till April 2028. Okay. That's ahead of June 4th, 2028 that he had been before. So he's got 2 more years. He's got to do 2 years of hard time. And the way he looks already, I don't think he's going to make it. Do you? There's rumors that Diddy has AIDS. That's why he went all gray and got all bad looking, because he's not getting the right meds or the adrenochrome whenever he was on before. He might be one of those dudes that's jumping bodies too. Who knows? If they could put you into a new body, wouldn't you do it? Sure you fucking would. And how many different... That's like the X-Men movie, one of the X-Men movies thing, when that powerful dude comes back, that ancient Egyptian dude comes back, right? Remember in that X-Men movie? He's doing the same thing. He's transferring his essence into a new body, right? He's laying on the table, remember? He's like this super powerful dude. He was sleeping for 2,000 years, and then he gets woke up. Remember? It's the same thing. It's soul swapping, whatever you want to call it. Soul scraping. That's how they're doing all the shooters. Now it makes sense. They're just jumping into anybody they want. Or something when you're about to die, then they jump in. Something like that. And they take over. Or they use the little proboscis thing and they take over with the black eye, right? It goes right into your brain. It kills you. And takes over your whole body. They got multiple ways they can do it. Now, I guess. They can wait till you're about to die and then do a jump in like that. Apparently. That's what's going on. Whoa, Epstein predicted Trump's war on Iran to hide past. YouTube video. Can watch that. Epstein was talking about stuff like this before. He was apparently, a lot closer to Trump than he wants to let on for a long time. Trump won't rule out sending U.S. troops into Iran if necessary, tells the post-war is progressing way ahead of schedule. I don't think he can do troops on the ground. That's going to get messy. And there's now apparently the Kurds in Iraq have now come over the border in a cross-border incursion and are now in Iran. Are they going to finally get what they deserve? Because if you remember, in the Iraq wars, the Kurds, we screwed the Kurds over every time, basically. We never hooked the Kurds up properly. We never took care of them. They never got lands that they should have got for helping us in the other wars. We've never helped the Kurds. We've never done right by them, really, and they've done a lot for us. They've done a lot in terms of killing a lot of Iraqi enemy. And they've killed a lot of Al-Qaeda over there, and they need to be compensated. And let's hope that the Kurds will be taken care of properly, because they weren't under Clinton, they weren't under Obama, and they weren't under Bush. They were screwed. And they didn't deserve what they got. And a lot of Kurds got hurt when we didn't get Saddam and he didn't get knocked out the first war. I thought they paid a heavy price. This is the massive Queens development that Mamdani pitched to Trump. It's 6 times the size of the Hudson Yards project. So he wants to take a massive rail yard in Queens you're talking about I'm not sure the size of this site. It's over 40 acres, I think, though. It's about 40 to 60 or 50 acres of site. And anywhere in New York, 5 boroughs, where you could find that much land, it's very expensive. It's worth a lot of money. Now, the question's going to be, who gets to do that deal? Is it going to be someone related to Trump who's building those buildings? Who's getting the cement contract? Who's getting this contract, right? It's a lot of money up for grabs when you have huge deals like this about to go through, where you want to build what you're saying is public housing. But can you build it really cheap and fast? Excuse me. Can you build it really cheap and fast? Probably no, right? It's not. Nothing gets built cheap and fast in New York because, well, there's so much permitting you have to go through and other shit, right? Why? What is Mamdani visiting with Trump, and what is the plan there? Why is all of a sudden Trump and Mamdani seem to be hand in hand, right? Trump obliterates Iran's navy by sinking 11 boats, including the mothership, so their navy's been compromised. I don't know about their air force. I've seen video of certain Iranian troops fleeing, so it looks as if the Iranian army itself is in disarray right now. Their leadership's in disarray. U.S. urges all Americans to leave 15 countries. Middle East braces for major uptick. So what happened is also there's a lot of people stranded all over the Middle East who can't get back to the United States right now. Trump sparks new health fears as viewers spot nasty issue on his neck. So Trump has a disgusting rash on his neck, which I'm not sure. It looks like it could be, they're saying it's something that's treatable, but it could be, what's that thing that you can get when you're older? I forgot what it's called. Whatever it is, it doesn't look good. He's got the bruising on the hands, this disgusting rash. Where did all the dead leaders go? We still don't know where the real Trump is, by the way, either, right? We're seeing different Trumps walking around that don't appear, obviously, not to be the real one. Is the real Trump dead? Where's the real Trump? Is he in the mountain? I don't think so. Where did all the dead leaders and money go, and who gets it? I don't know. A lot of people are dying, right? Where's all those Iranian leaders? They're dead, but they took money from the people of Iran. Certain people's monies and lands were stolen from them, right? There has to be some restitution. And all these people that keep talking about an EBS and this emergency broadcast, it's never happened. Why not? Trump's been in office over a year. Why hasn't it happened yet? When is it going to happen? His second year? His third year? Why wouldn't you do it right away? And then Obama comes out and said, "There's nothing below in Area 51." Really? Are you sure, dude? I don't trust what you're saying. If there isn't anything there, then why can't we go down there? Why don't you even acknowledge that there's something there? If there's nothing there, why is it so secret? Why is it off limits for everybody to go there? Dramatic video appears to show downed F-15 pilot being threatened. Yeah, pull out your .45. Dude's like going to hit you with a pipe. Okay, go ahead. That'll be the last thing you do. They don't want to have a bad situation where a pilot has to shoot a Kuwaiti citizen, right? That's not going to probably help you do too well in that country. So obviously you don't want to do that. But the guy's threatening to hit a guy with a pipe. Mamdani administration admits that 7 other New Yorkers died indoors from the cold. In other words, they were in their home and the heat was cut off and you didn't help them and they died. It got that cold. It can. Try turning off all your heat in your house and it's like 7 degrees out. See how long you last. You're gonna die. Even if your house is well insulated, it's gonna get cold sooner or later. And if you're in a brick building or an older building where there's all kinds of leaks in the some of these older buildings they don't have proper windows. There's leaks. There's cracks in the building's facade and things where the wind gets through the windows. Yeah, I've lived in buildings where it's freezing cold in the winter. It's not enough heat. I've been to friends' houses where I'm freezing my ass off. I'm like, I gotta go, man. It's too cold in your house, dude. I don't know what's wrong with your landlord, but better get on that phone. Paying full rent for this? What are you, crazy? The pathetic reason illegal alien who hacked mom to death in lefty D.C. suburb was free despite 30 arrests. because they wanted him free. They wanted him free to kill somebody. That's what they wanted. New York gas prices could soar by $2.23, Hochul warns. Well, if it does, we're going to have some of the most expensive gas in the country besides California. Where there's some parts of California you pay $5, $6, $7 a gallon. Iran launches attack on largest U.S. base in the Middle East and warns Trump the gates of hell will open. So they're hitting all our bases. They're hitting our bases that we have in different countries that aren't involved in this war, and those countries are getting pissed. Revealed Mossad hacked every traffic camera in Tehran for years. How Israel and America sealed the fate of the Ayatollah. So they're claiming they had all the traffic cameras bugged. They've been watching, and this guy decides, hey, you know what? In the middle of a war footing, I'm going to go have a meeting with all my generals in an above-ground building. That was not a very smart move, if that's what they in fact did. Fans remain convinced celebrity impersonator was responsible for Jim Carrey's unrecognizable appearance at Caesar Awards, despite spokesperson insisting it was the real star. That's not Jim. There's no way. The nose was off. His eyes were a different color. He's not speaking properly. I'm not buying it. Your eyes don't change color. I mean, you can change your eye color with like context, but why would you change it to like an unremarkable color like what his are? You'd make him like, hazel or something, right? Like bright or green or blue or something rare. His eyes are like brown or something. Whatever. Sinkhole appears under the 13th hole at the UK golf course. So I thought that this was like a tunnel complex. It turned out to be a wine cellar. Apparently, there was a wine cellar dug at one point. Who knows? That house, there could have been a large estate on this golf course at one time, right? There was then maybe part of the house was changed. Who knows? But it turned out to be just a wine cellar. I don't think it was a large tunnel complex underneath, but you can see how one could be underneath the golf course and you'd never know it was there unless a sinkhole happened. I wrote possible dumb or other entrance. Still could be an entrance to on a bigger complex, I guess, but we just don't know. They did find wine bottles, so they're saying it was an old wine cellar. So there may be another structure that stood on that part of the golf course in the past, and then it was bought. The property was bought and then made into a golf course, right? Some of the larger estates, that's what happens to them. They get cut up into pieces and then bought. Judge rules Trump can't block ICE detention visits by Congress. That's interesting because remember when Trump tried to visit the J6 protesters in the Washington, D.C. jail? He wasn't allowed to go in there. I think he did try to go in once, remember? Did he go there or did he call up and say, what's the status, what's going on? He couldn't, they weren't exactly being honest about what they were doing with these people. And to this day, we don't know if all the J6 people are out, are they? Is everybody out of that prison? We don't know. Somebody should go check that out. I wrote, are all the J6 detainees freed? We don't know that yet. Trump never went into the prison, did he? He wasn't allowed in there, right? I think he did try to at least go there, or somebody did try. Was it one of those senators tried to go, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to go or somebody like that, I think. I forgot. I'll try to go look it up. Trump administration hopes to thread the needle on Iran regime change. Senior officials say the U.S. is not aiming to enforce regime change, but wants to set the stage for the Iranian people to overthrow the Islamic Republic themselves. Well, what do you mean you're not doing regime change? You just killed the whole upper hierarchy of these countries' leadership. Twice. Then they had another group came together and you killed that group. Or that was maybe the Israelis that did that. Not exactly letting them form a new government. And then Trump says, well, I have to approve whoever the next president or the prime minister of Iran is, I have to approve it. Well, that's you saying you have to approve it then, not the people. Israeli military says it killed Palestinian Islamic Jihad commander in Lebanon. His elimination has significantly degraded the Palestinian liberation, the PLJ's ability to carry out terrorist operations against Israel. Bill filed to create a commission to investigate Epstein files related to Illinois only. If justice remains a locked door in Washington, then let our state be the battering ram. Let Illinois lead the way. Other states will follow. League of Women Voters Chicago activist Jane Ruby said. What about New York or Ohio too? I thought they said when the last release that was all the documents there was, Bondi said. But now you're saying there's 55,000 more, and now you're saying there's more. And then the documents that are coming out now are implicating Trump directly and Epstein and putting them both together in the same place, abusing more children more than one time. Is that why these documents didn't come out so fast? Because they implicate Trump? Shirley Temple exposed Hollywood's child predators years ago, but no one listened, right? So if you listen to like one of the last interviews that Shirley Temple did in the 70s, remember she was a child star, right? She was like 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, and MGM and those guys were all trying to, hurt her, sexually abuse her, right? She had to run away from these guys. They chased her around the desk. But what she says is when she and her mother were taken to MGM to meet the bigwigs, she was taken into one office and the mother was taken into a different office. They were separated immediately. And little Shirley Temple was in a room with a man who was completely naked, she said. And she laughed at the man, and then he told her to get out, which I guess wasn't the response that he was thinking he was going to get from her. Right? So that's what these people were doing even back then. That's Shirley Temple's experience. And she told her mom what happened. And her mom said, you won't believe what this guy was coming on to me. This director guy we met over here was trying to pick me up. They used the same scam against Epstein, used the same kind of rationale where he had an associate of his is dating the mother who has a young daughter who happens to have a real estate. They set her up. It looks like to me. John McAfee reveals the identity of the man who created Bitcoin. Some people are saying it was Epstein created Bitcoin. It wasn't Satoshi. What if it was Epstein? What if it's another pyramid scheme? Right? He's already done another pyramid scheme with Hoffenberg. What if this is a more sophisticated pyramid? It's the same concept. There's only a certain amount of money, right? I have to sell a certain amount of coins, right? There's only going to be 21 million coins. But then I'll give you a way you can mine some of those coins yourself. It doesn't make sense, right? It's a digital mining. How is that possible? You're not digging in the ground for these things. No, you're creating them out of nothing, right? How Israel chain-ganged the Trump administration into war against Iran, the Federalist. Well, some people are saying that we really weren't going to attack Iran. It was Israel just did their own thing, and they figured we'd have to get in then, right? But either way, we're in it now, right? SCOTUS shuts down New York's bid to redistrict GOP seat ahead of the 2026 midterms. They tried to redistrict in a way where there wasn't going to be any GOP left. It's like you can't do that. So the other day, silver was down $8 in one day, right, which is highly unusual. So it was at almost $90, $91. They knocked it down to $81, $82. I think it's at $83, $84 now. They knocked gold down $263 in one day to almost to the 5,000 support. So what's happening? Is this normal? No, of course it's not normal. It's algorithmic trades. It's people buying silver contracts who are manipulating the market. It's big banks manipulating gold and silver down because they had huge shorts on that for years and they were artificially manipulating it to go down, making themselves billions of dollars in profit. Hurting the investor who physically holds silver and gold, keeping the price cheap, keeping it down when it tries to rise up. They've done this historically from the 80s going forward since we've gotten off the gold standard. Trump obliterates meeting to pick new Iranian leader and tells survivors it's too late to negotiate as Tehran attacks another major oil refinery. So he's like, I'm going to pick who your leader is, not you. Why don't the people do it? The people aren't making any move to go into the place and take it over, are they? Why not? I don't know. Israel bombs Iran's top mullahs as they count votes for next supreme leader. So they killed him during the vote. The Dow was down 1,000 points the other day. I don't know what it's down right now. Let's see. Dow's dropping fast, another 1%. It's at 47,450. Let's see, what is it down? Down another 588 points. So that's 1,500 point drop in 2 days. That's bad. That's bad. How many more days does it have to keep going down before some of the stock people start to panic and maybe start to panic sell? How many margin calls are coming in on people with... That's what usually happens too. That's how I almost got destroyed. I was out on margin. This back in like the 90s, mid-90s. Everything was blowing up and the market was going crazy. And then all of a sudden you got a couple bad days. Your biggest position gets hit. You're big time on margin. You got to sell that position. That's the only thing you can sell to feed the beast, as it is, right? They need you to add more money to your account or sell your biggest position. That's to generate the cash needed to keep you okay, right? Because if you default on that margin, they'll take all your shit. They'll take it all until they get their money. Everything was going down the other day at the same time. Bitcoin, XRP, gold, silver, Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500, Palladium, everything down. Everything. The whole freaking shebang. It's on purpose, right? That's not statistically possible. Some of those things would be going up, usually, if it was a normal market that wasn't being messed around with. U.S. Embassy struck by drones in Saudi Arabia as Americans instructed to shelter in place. Americans ordered to shelter in place across Saudi Arabia as Iran continues retaliatory attacks in the region. Israel and the U.S. flattened Assembly of Experts building where Iran chooses its next leader. So they just totally... There was an underground complex under there, they're saying. Well, think about it like this. If giants did exist, and we have the skeletons to prove they did, well, that could be who built the pyramids. Right? They could lift those giant blocks easy. Couple of those giants, yeah, sure. Lift a couple ton block, no problem. Stack it wherever you want it perfectly, like a little jigsaw puzzle. Some people say that they had some kind of sonic technology that can be used to using sound, right, to actually lift and move large blocks. People are talking about you can use sound to put fires out. They have that tech already. They don't need firemen. They just have firemen for other rescue stuff. But for fire, they don't need firemen at all. They can just use this device to aim a beam of a certain sound decibel at the fire will put the fire out somehow. What's wrong with Trump's neck? Doctors reveal likely cause it's like a keratosis or actinic keratosis. It looks horrible. Maybe you should stop wearing those horrible starched collars all the time on your neck, right? This guy never wears anything but a suit for some reason. See, the hair's wrong. The clone's breaking down. Where's the scar on his ear from getting shot? You don't even see it. There's no scar on his ear from being shot. Isn't this the ear he was shot in? There's no visible scar on his ear and this horrible rash. And this guy never wears anything but a suit, right? Have you ever seen Trump wearing blue jeans? Never, never, never. Here's a closer version of it. It looks disgusting. Looks very red. It's peeling off. There's some dark spots. That could be, what's the other thing? Rickets? Or what's that called? Not rickets. Something you can get when you're older. It's all people can get it. It's sort of like chicken pox. But Spain gets owned. Trump moves to cut all U.S. trade to Spain because of what they did, I'm assuming, with the illegal aliens. American consulate in Dubai was hit by suspected Iranian drone. New York Post, that was 2 days ago. Iran's new supreme leader is named Ali Khamenei's son, Mojtaba. Trump's already said he doesn't want that person, so we'll see what happens with that. Iran strikes CIA base in Saudi Arabia. In huge symbolic victory, a spy agency arms Islamic militants to spark uprising. So they hit a CIA base. They hit other bases in Qatar and UAE, in Saudi Arabia, other parts. U.S. sub sinks the Iranian warship named after a terrorist leader who Trump assassinated in first such attack. So whatever they used on that ship was a huge explosion. It raised the ship up off the water and broke its back in half. That ship sank to the bottom, I think, with 87 or 80 something casualties, 80 something deaths. Cane-wielding Al Green's forced into the Texas Democratic primary runoff by House's newest member. Let's hope that Al Green gets removed from political office. He's long been a thorn in Trump's side for sure, and just long been one of these senators who are, or congresspeople that is not doing their job, is a derelict in their duty as far as I'm concerned. We are still recording. Wild video shows BLM leader fighting female staffer who accused him of gambling funds. So this guy's got caught stealing some of the funds, and now you're beating up a female staffer? That doesn't look too good. And it's on videotape. This guy's going to jail for battery for sure. Goldman Sachs lawyer Kathy Rumler is set to face Congress over the Jeffrey Epstein ties. This is all show. No one will ever go to jail over Epstein ties that I could see. I haven't seen anybody. Seen some people like lose their job, right? Israel resumes attacks on Hezbollah, advances deeper into southern Lebanon, UPI News. Ecuador's Noboa imposes curfew in 4 provinces amid crime fight. Bill Clinton just got caught in 4K. Watch Clinton actually smiling, looking over the old photos of himself with Maxwell and Epstein. Yeah, you could watch it on YouTube if you want. The lawyer's trying to keep the photo from him. He's like a little kid, like looking at himself in the hot tub or whatever. Oh yeah, I remember that night. And one of the people says, do flight attendants usually wear like tank tops and jeans on the flight? Not usually, right? The one like a blonde that you have your arm around in the photo. I don't think she's a flight attendant. Do you, Mr. Clinton? And he's like, no. He doesn't know what to say. Bubba got caught out there, right? Government to secure oil supplies from outside the Middle East amid de facto closure of the Hormuz Strait. We don't have enough oil. It's going to start to dry up real quick. Commerce Secretary Lutnick to testify on Epstein connections in the House. So now Lutnick's going to be on the stand. People are calling for Trump to testify about his ties to Epstein now, after another allegation has surfaced from another whistleblower against Trump, allegedly sexually assaulting her in 2019. Remember they had Michael Jackson had to show his penis, remember, in the court. Well, if this person if somebody bit Trump's penis, there should be scarring on his penis from it. Shouldn't Trump, in essence, have to show his penis if there's a lawsuit? If he's in front of a court having to testify? If they made Michael Jackson suffer that indignity? Remember when Michael Jackson had to show pictures of his penis? Remember that? Well, shouldn't the same apply to somebody else that's now been accused of sexual harassment of young girls, one of whom says she bit his penis? Here's Nate Freeman's Twitter account. The Iran protests in New York City are bought and paid for. Here it is, all with the proof. Watch how they load the signs into the car, and at 3:10 the leader confronts me and I expose her salary. She celebrated October 7th and got paid to do it. Best of luck. Here's Nate Freeman's Twitter account, where you can see these people in New York. They got it all set up for they got all the signs. They got all the protesters waiting for the signs. They're ready to go. It's all paid for by whoever, right? Here's Nate Friedman.
Grassroots. This is all paid for. Hey, how you doing, guys?
Here's the signs.
Where are we headed with these signs?
Where you headed, bro?
Where are we going here?
All set up. Look at this. Nice and neat.
But this does not look very grassroots.
Yeah, where's the people making their signs? Where are they? There's these people. Just laying all the signs out so people can grab them.
You guys doing this for free? Show this to people that say that any of this is grassroots.
Yeah, it's not grassroots. They got all the signs all made up. They're all tied up in bunches waiting for the people right at this spot to come pick them up. These isn't people making their own signs at home. This isn't a homegrown movement.
Show it to them. Show them this clip. So all these signs that you see laid out right here are going to Columbus Circle for a protest that Roy Neville Singham is paying for. Okay? A CCP billionaire
Neville
who's
Roy
trying to sow
Singham.
division into this country. He needs to be looked at, Roy Neville Singham. Oh, here we go, more signs. Oh my god, is this enough, guys? Wow. So let's just see roughly how many signs these are. They all say PSL, probably George Soros is involved with PSL. PSL's fiscal sponsor is the Progress Unity Fund, and we know from last episode that the sponsor of the Progress Unity Fund is the Tides Foundation. George Soros gave the Tides Foundation $40 million. Answer Coalition, Progress Unity Fund. If you look at this over here, you can see answercoalition.org, which is funded by the Progress Unity Fund, which is funded by George Soros. So you got George Soros and you got Roy Neville Singham funding millions of dollars into this country, trying to sow division. And now everyone will see that none of this is natural. It comes from an office that he owns, called the People's Forum. Where to now? Going to Columbus Circle.
Going up to Columbus Circle, getting all the signs ready. So you can check out the rest of the video. It's on Nate Friedman's X.com, which is at Nate Friedman 97 on X.com. You can look at Nate Friedman's X.com and check out what's going on in New York, right? These protests are paid for. It's paid for by groups like from Neville Roy Singham, the Tides Foundation. It's groups that we've talked about in the past a little bit. We've also talked about other billionaires overseas that are doing stuff like this in this country. What was the other billionaire's name again? That we talked about a long time back, right? He's an overseas billionaire that's also been spending a lot of money over here. I'll think of his name in a minute. Jasmine Crockett concedes defeat in Texas after humiliating loss to baby-faced assassin James Tallarico. So Crockett's out, the Democrat, in Texas. The Galactic Federation, they're saying, is real. So there is some kind of Galactic Federation that's here. That's what it's been. There's people saying it's real in government. That I believe that one of the president, did Trump say it's real? Somebody did. The question is there some presence that's here, whether it's alien or other, that's for the good that we cannot see, that has never made itself known to most Americans and people on Earth. And when they do make themselves known to us, I'm assuming at some point, is that what wakes up humanity? Or does humanity wake up because of a solar flash that wakes us up? Or does humanity wake up because just enough people are awake now to what, through the Epstein files and things like this? I don't know. If this is true, the DNC has a moral earthquake coming, PJ Media. Biden lets suspected terrorists slip over the border. Now Dems are starving DHS. And what would you starve DHS for? Russia says it's lost contact with Iranian nuclear leadership. Yeah, the Iranian nuclear leadership is dead. Town Hall. Jeffrey Epstein's butler was busted selling the Little Black Book. But I thought the Little Black Book was already published. Publicly, wasn't it? Jeffrey Epstein's former butler, Alfredo Rodriguez, tried to sell his copy of Epstein's contact list for $50,000 to an undercover FBI employee. Rodriguez, who worked for Epstein from 2004 to 2005, was arrested for obstruction of official proceedings after withholding the document from law enforcement. So this guy had the black book the whole time. He's talking to the cops and he never told them, and then he tries to sell it. House panel subpoenas Bondi to testify on handling of the Epstein file. So now Bondi's in trouble because they're going to say, well, wait a minute, how come all these files keep coming out? When they do, they implicate Trump more and more. And why didn't these files come out right away? Well, because they implicate Trump. And why didn't they come out under Trump, right? Well, that's why. Because they started looking deep into it and they said, shit, we're going to have to kill Epstein. Because if he stays alive, he knows he's too close to Trump. He's going to tell him everything about, he's going to tell him about what he did with Trump. And Trump can't have that. That's what I'm assuming happened, right? Question is he dead or alive? We still don't know. Ground invasion launched against Iran as thousands of U.S.-backed Kurdish fighters stormed the border. At first they said this story was fake, but I believe it's real. Kurdish militias based across the border in Iraq began the offensive in northwestern Iran. I think they're going to take part of Iran, these guys. They need something. Some of the lands, their lands were not taken away from them, the Kurds, a long time back. President Trump on Sunday spoke with the heads of Kurdish militant groups in Iraq to discuss the situation in Iran. The CIA was exploring plans to arm the Kurdish forces. This is the same bullshit we've done 5 times already in the past. We arm the Kurds, we make a bunch of promises to them, and then we screw them over after they help us. So we'll see if this time we do right by the Kurds. I think we are going to do right by them this time. We should have done right by them in the past. They've suffered a lot of indecencies. A lot of bad things have happened to these people, and they deserve better. So let's hope that the Kurds are given more lands back of their ancestral lands if some were taken from them. And those lands might be in parts of Iran and in Iraq. We don't know. We'll have to see how that all plays out with the Kurds. And how far did they go before they stop? Millions left without power after major blackout hits Cuba. So Cuba's in blackout. They can't get enough oil. So they're starving Cuba out. Zoran Mamdani ditches campaign pledge on New York City intersections in latest flip-flop. Yeah, he was going to say, we're going to make the intersections more clear. We're not going to make it so cars can park so close to intersections anymore. We're going to put barriers up, like plant things and different things to make it so you can't. With all these added bike lanes he's put in, it's also really dangerous. These bike lanes are super dangerous because where you park, you then have to cross through a bike lane in some areas where these delivery guys are on electric bikes that go, some of them, over 35 miles an hour. So imagine getting hit by a bike going like 40. That can kill a kid easy. People have been killed by bikes here that, they're going 40 miles an hour. And it's a big, heavy metal bike. It's not some light racing bike. Cartel boss El Mencho's daughter was found running a California coffee shop. How is a cartel boss's daughter in this country running a business and you don't know about it? Or did you? Of course you fucking knew. You know who everybody is. How come no one knows a cartel boss's daughter is in our country running a coffee shop, I wrote? WTF. What the F? Really? Profiting off that? All these years? LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman joked about ice cream for the girls in gift to Jeffrey Epstein after staying at his island report. I guess these people never thought their emails would ever be looked at, right? The way they talk about it so nonchalantly through their emails, as if they're not even trying to hide it most of the time. Yeah, they make code words, but half the time they don't even bother, right? Hey, give the little girl some ice cream. What outfit do you want her to wear next? How about Snow White? Right? These guys are talking about. This guy's a pimp, right? Is part of what Epstein is. He's a pimp. He's an underage kid pimp. Yeah, he does all kinds of other shit, but that's part of what he's doing. He's moving these kids around to these different rich people so they can have sex with them. That's what he's doing. That's part of what he's doing. And now we know he's blackmailing some of the kids' parents by showing, hey, I got pictures of your daughter and a sexually explicit photos of your daughter. And he's blackmailing the mother with that? And, how do you do that? And she doesn't call the police? Senate rejects resolution requiring Trump to seek congressional approval for further action in Iran. Republicans defended the president's actions as constitutional under his authority as commander-in-chief and cited the War Powers Act. Yeah, but to declare war, to actually use the country's war mechanism, you have to be allowed to do it through Congress has to allow you to do it. That's why you can't just invade any country you want on a whim, right? That's not how we're supposed to act. But that's what this guy did. He just started a military campaign without having a vote. Because he says, well, we're not at war technically. We're just doing a military movement. Mamdani advisor seeks comms killer to soften view of radical Islam. You're not going to soften the view of radical Islam in the United States, in New York. Why would you try to do that? Because you want to make Islam more popular in the United States? Right? That's what these guys keep doing. You see, there's certain Sikhs who have restaurants in. They have certain restaurants in Great Britain, and they refuse to serve halal food, and they're being attacked. They're having Muslims come up to their restaurants and threaten them that they should serve halal. Why aren't they serving halal? They don't have to serve halal food. I can have any restaurant I want. I could be in a heavily Muslim neighborhood and serve barbecue and have bacon and have pork products if I want. You don't have a right to tell me what my business can serve or what I can sell. If you don't like what my business sells, don't come into my business. But don't you dare harass my business with your religious beliefs. I don't care about your religious beliefs. Sikhs' religion is different from Muslim religion. It's not the same. I don't believe have the same religious beliefs. How dare you tell this man what he has to serve in his restaurant, or what he can serve and what he can't? Your religion doesn't have any power over this man and what he serves or his business in this country whatsoever, period. The Biden AutoPen probe ends the way so many others do. Yeah, nothing happened, right? This guy's having other people running his whole presidency. That's how you know that Trump's in on it with these people, because none of them are getting arrested. There's no Gitmo train. There's no train that can go to Gitmo. How are you getting a Gitmo train? It's going under the fucking water? These people are liars. You seeing this fake guy, Wano Savin Wayne Willott, traveling all over the world? Who the fuck is this guy? Who do you represent? You don't represent the good guys in this thing. I know that. And then you get people talking about Kerry Cassidy and these people. They're way up the chain. They're connected to these people high up. It's a high value disinformation campaign going on with these people. And that they just spew out the same bullshit. And it's a much larger group of people than we realize. A lot of those shows are those people. There's hundreds of them now. That's why my viewership's down. There's just too many shows. And nobody can pick which one is really saying what the truth is. All I can continue to do is speak my truth and what I think to be the truth. And show you the articles that are taking us down this path to eventually knowing more about what's been really happening. But the more we watch these people, the more we learn about how they work and how they move and that they use covert means and that they use different ways of communication, and we know how they operate now and what their goals are. Once you know how they operate, you can see how they move, and once you see how they move, you can identify them. Rhode Island AG releases first report on sex abuse by who? Catholic priests. That's been going on since what, the 40s, 30s? Way before that. It's been going on multi-generationally, more than 3 generations. British Parliament members spouse 2 others charged with spying. So people within the British Parliament, including Andrew Mountbatten, have been arrested now, right? U.S. Ecuador launched joint military operation against drug trafficking. So you're seeing major anti-drug trafficking operations being launched in Ecuador and Mexico and different countries. That's a positive. Venezuela signs new contracts to supply oil to who? The United States. Oh, is that why you went in there? Is that why you seized their oil? Well, we have a lot of our own oil, right? I thought Trump was saying we're going to be mass exporters soon. Whatever happened to that? Why are we still even dealing with oil when we have 0-point energy that we can implement now? We have free energy devices now. Sol shares plunged over 12% on Middle East conflict fears. That was the other day. And that translated into a 1,800 point down day yesterday in the Dow, and another 500 today. It's about 1,300 on the Dow, negative off 2 days. But we needed it. We were due for a large correction in the market for a very long time. I mean, Trump keeps saying, "Oh, we hit 50,000." It's not going to go any higher. You notice that it didn't get. Once it hit 50, it got corrected large, and it's going to correct much more. Iranian bombers came within 2 minutes of striking largest U.S. base in Middle East before Qatari Air Force shot the aircraft down. So Qatari Air Force also shot down 2 of our planes, fortunately. Luckily, the pilots ejected. Nobody was killed. DOJ to release more than 47,000 additional Jeffrey Epstein files. They just released those files, and some of them implicate the president again and Jeffrey Epstein. Another allegation has been leveled against the president of sexual abuse by a minor female. More allegations against Trump of sexual misconduct in this batch. Why did these come out so late? Why weren't these amongst the original documents that came out? Because they implicate Trump. MAGA hardliner pushes ban on immigration from Islamic countries. U.S. adversaries in wake of Texas shooting. Rep. Andy Ogle set to introduce the bill following Austin shooting where suspect wore property of al-Ahadi. Yeah, maybe we should stop all... I think we should stop all immigration, period, right now. Unless you're on the waiting list through the legal port of entries. Everybody else should be removed and forced to get back on that line. I don't care if you've been here 25 years. I don't really care. I don't care if you've raised a family here. The fact is you have not paid taxes unless you have a social security card. And if you are an illegal alien, you most likely don't have that document. Measure to require voter ID in California gets over 1 million signatures. The new initiative would require voters to show one of several forms of ID. Yeah, but those can be, if it's a driver's license, that can be already faked pretty easily, right? CENTCOM support requests hints war could last to at least September. The White House has repeatedly adjusted its timeline. You don't have that long, I don't think. You'll run out of money before then. You're already broke. Trump fires Kirsti Noem in first cabinet shakeup of second term, but he just reassigned it, right? She's not completely out of his administration. AI is ushering in a new era of Satanism. Exorcists warn religious leaders of great power. New York Post. I think we should just get rid of all AI. I don't see why there's a need for it. There really isn't. Maybe a very basic AI, but nothing like what they're doing. We're having it in everything. That's just a mistake. U.S. adversaries made nearly 30,000 visits to sensitive labs under the Biden administration, bombshell data show. So what were they doing at all these labs? Trying to release another thing on us? Israeli army orders mass evacuation of Beirut's southern suburbs. UPI. 9-country Interpol operation rescues 65 children and arrests 60 people. So that's a big deal. There's an international child smuggling ring was just broken up. Another one. New York City earmarked $400 million for dozens of preschools that were never opened. Where'd all that money, where's the $400 million? Stolen? Inside the A-list New York City condo building that's home to Chelsea Clinton that Jeffrey Epstein secretly funded. So it appears that Chelsea Clinton is living in a building that was at one time funded by, or part of it was funded by Jeffrey Epstein. That's interesting. Because Ghislaine is friends with Hillary Clinton's daughter, right? That's how she knows Ghislaine. She says she's an acquaintance of my daughter. I know her through my daughter. She was at her daughter's wedding. So she knew her well enough to invite her to her wedding, right? She wasn't just like somebody she met once or twice, Ghislaine. Feds bust LA's most notorious super gang in rapid morning raids. The Post watched the whole thing. FBI busts 18th Street gang in East LA raid. Watch as Bill Clinton reacts to Jeffrey Epstein's infamous blue dress painting of him. You can watch that on YouTube. So that's what I got for you so far, guys. Got another 2.5-hour movie, but we had to read those documents. It's super important. The president has now been alleged to have sexually assaulted. I think this is the third or fourth person now that an allegation has come out of sexual assault against a 15-year-old girl, whose mother was blackmailed by Epstein, who apparently was being kept at one point on an island that we're not sure which island it was. Was she being kept on Epstein Island? It appears this family was at some point in Georgia. Does Epstein have another island that we have not even heard about yet? And is it in the Outer Banks or one of these smaller island chains that exist off the coast of like North Carolina, the coast of Georgia, the coast of Virginia? There are a lot of small islands around. If you look, and remember I showed you those islands that are even on, and if you go out to Long Island where like Rockaway Beach is, there's all kinds of other smaller islands on those maps that aren't called anything. They're just little small islands that are out there, right? Who knows what's going on these islands at a given time, right? In the day or night, you don't know. There's no real patrols that go around some of these places, except for maybe some Coast Guard stuff. right? These are areas where smuggling routes existed at one time off the coast of Long Island, different cities, right? These are areas where illicit things can be moved in secret, where unless you're from these areas, you don't know some of these little coves and these little streams and inlets and places, right? There can be huge areas of where people can be operating in almost secret, where you don't know what's going on, right? So I think there's something that I'm feeling about from the information that just came out in this new Epstein dump, that Epstein has another island. It's not Dog Island, it's someone else. It's somewhere closer to the U.S. It's one of these islands off the coast. It's somewhere we haven't seen yet or heard about, but it's coming. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to come in the future with the more of the Epstein information. This is the third or fourth allegation now leveled against President Trump of sexual assault of a minor. A minor female has accused the president of forced oral sex on him, in which she allegedly bit the president's penis and was told to leave and was physically assaulted for that. I heard that allegation now from two different people, I believe. The original girl who was there, and now another person had come out earlier and I think had told that story as well. So we have another allegation against the president has come out, and that he was present with Jeffrey Epstein for the abuse of a minor or minors. So that information is out there. There's more against the president, and more President Trump's name has come up again in the Epstein files. So I hope you're well. I hope you're working out stretch and staying in your center space. We'll see if there's a new island base or somewhere that Epstein has been, that'll come out where we know that Epstein was operating out of another island possibly, right? Where was this woman kept with her mother as when they were kept prisoner, and for how long was that, and where was that island? So friends, I hope you're well, working out stretching, staying in your center space. I'm doing the best I can to keep up with these shows. I'm having a tough time keeping myself positive lately. The negative energy out there is extremely strong. There's a lot of negativism out there. We're trying to keep our vibration high. We're trying to keep our eyes on the story and our eyes on the prize about what's really going on. To get to what the truth really is. That's always been our goal here on this channel, and it feels like very close to it now as more and more information is coming out. Will enough information at some point come out that's negative about Trump and these Epstein files that he will be forced to address it and to step down? I don't know yet, but he's a lame duck president, which means he's in his final term, so he's not worried about a re-election campaign. But even if Trump does step down, you're still trapped with Vance, right? These are people that are being run by the Black Sun people, right? You can tell now that the Statue of Liberty is not a statue of liberty at all. It's a statue of Satan. It's about Satan's dominion over this country that has to be removed, right? The power and the darkness that has plagued this country for so long, really since its inception, has to be removed. And we're getting closer and closer to doing that. I never thought it would take this much energy of a positive vibration to raise the Earth's vibration back to where it should be. I didn't realize how far into the darkness I guess we had fallen as a human species, through really no fault of our own, through people who had throughout history, every time we would get to a place where we might figure out what's happening, we were knocked backwards, right? Into the dark ages, into an age where people couldn't read as much, where information was kept from us, where we were distracted by war, conquest, famine, disaster, man-made another, right? And so, like somebody was posting something the other day that was showing all the different things that have happened just since COVID, right? The COVID thing, the mass shootings, the wars, the fake things that have happened, all these fake things that have been going on, that have been engineered to drive us down a path to being dominated, to a world domination of humanity. And how even through all that, there's been patriots like this channel and others who have stood up and not wanted to profit and not wanted to become a star or anything, and just simply wanted the truth. and were willing to fight you year after year, putting out information free to the public with no expectation of reward. That's who the heroes of this thing are. The people that have been searching for the truth all these years and not enriching themselves. The people who have just been doing it for that one reason. Those are the true heroes in my view. So friends, I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. I hope you are reading through these documents like I am and finding out more information. And as we dig as a collective more and more into these files, we will get all the information. We will find out what happened because enough of us are concerned about it and watching and going through those files. So I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. This is your friend in New York, Ash, NPMP News, signing off for now.